Do you want to be a part of the CoCo community? Sure, we all do. So join this free weekly live talk show to find out how easy it is to watch at home and learn about your color computer. At the CoCoNation, more than 9 million men and women have participated in the community without setting foot outside their homes. And now at home in your spare time, you can see what's happening, or even join the discussion. Choose from any one of these segments: panel intros, project updates, acquisitions, CoCo thoughts, featured interviews and events, the Game On Challenge, news, Ron's Garage, CoCo commercials, show coverage, panel goodbyes, or you can join one of our extra shows. You can choose from the Game On Challenge Live or CoCo Tech. Join the CoCoNation right now.
Click the link for the free information TJB Chris spoke about. Then decide if you want to watch the CoCoNation Live Show, the world's leading live weekly talk show featuring the Tandy Color computer, its siblings, cousins, and redheaded stepchildren. Visit thecoconation.com. There is no obligation and no salesman will visit you. Visit thecoconation.com.
The CoCoNation show is an unscripted, live, and interactive broadcast. Anything can and will happen. The views and opinions expressed by members of the panel and the live audience are their own, and not necessarily those of the CoCoNation show, its sponsors, affiliates, or subsidiaries. Open minds are encouraged, and a sense of humor is recommended. Thank you for being a part of the CoCoNation.
Radio Shack? Okay.
What?
The 80s called.
Welcome to the CoCoNation, the world's first live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy color computer and its hardware cousins.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CoCoNation Show, episode 388. Oh, we got a even dozen today. I'm not going to say full house because we always got room for more. Oh, let's see who we got today. Upper left-hand corner, yours truly. Next over, Kevin Holloway.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
And Ron Deluxe.
Hey, what's shaking?
And then we got Ron R, first time viewer. Or
Good
TD.
afternoon.
Next row we got Rick Euland.
Greetings all.
And something the cat dragged in, Ken Waters.
I've got my coffee IV drip going directly into my arm, so I might even stay awake for some of this show.
Nice.
That'd be a first.
All right, let's see. Next over, Barco.
Hey, y'all. Glad to be here today.
And you need to crank that volume up a little bit higher.
Meh. How's that?
More.
More.
Better go to 10.
Okay, we're at 10.
Oh, great. Now we can hear you.
Yeah?
Dang it.
Okay.
Yeah, you might want to go back to the drawing board on that one.
You got a little fuzz at the end.
Let's see. Next over, Brian Weasler.
Hello, all. And just for clarity, this is bottled water, but after 3 hours, I may have to switch to wine. So,
Of course
Uh-huh.
it is.
Yep. It's a
sure.
bottled water bottle. Anyway.
I think he swapped him at the beginning by accident. Accident.
No one said WeFX, so I don't know what.
All right, let's see.
Everybody drink.
No, you're getting worse.
Really?
You got some disconnect
Oh,
somewhere.
that worked.
I don't know. I could hear Mark fine.
Oh,
He sounds very fuzzy.
Yeah, you're starting
Mighty.
to clip.
Fuzzy would be overdriven somewhere along the
Oh,
line.
there he is. Yeah.
All right, next row, we've got Henry Gernhardt.
Hi, folks. Welcome to the CoCoNation. My name's Henry, and I'd look at you, but I'm driving right now. Again. Be safe.
Space. Yeah, driving through space. We can see the
right.
sun on you.
All right, and next up, we got Bob Emery.
Howdy, folks. Welcome to the show.
All right, next over, Nick Berentes.
Welcome to the CoCoNation show, because you're worth it.
Flattery will get you nowhere.
And next over, we got L Curtis Boyle.
Welcome to the show, everyone. And I'm not so used to Nick being so awake during the start of the show, but I guess the daylight savings change is giving him an extra hour's sleep, right?
That's right, an hour to wake up.
All right, and on the next row, I almost thought we had Patrick Stewart, but I guess not. Frederick.
Engage. Yeah, taking a break from putting insulation into the ceiling, almost finished, and now I want to join the CoCoNation live.
Yeah, well, being where you at, I would think installation's kind of a priority.
Yeah, it is. That's why I'm not going to stay the whole 16 hours on
Oh, he knows if he doesn't get the insulation all done, then his wife has to cuddle up closer to him.
Yeah.
Plus the fact that you came onto the show here, you can basically write off the rest of the day for doing insulation because we'll be going on for hours.
Yeah, I might not stay the whole 15 hours, though.
All right, over in the chat, we've got Kevin Holloway, Canadian Retro Things, Marco, Sixty, Daddy Burrito, Michael's Riffle, TJB Chris, Jim Rye, Scott Cooper. More iterations of Marco, Tom Eric Gunderson, Jim, Tim Franklin. Can't remember if I said Daddy Burrito already. Wayne Campbell, Frank Linhardt.
Lynn Harris, but yeah.
Lynn Harris.
It wouldn't be a proper CoCoNation show without some mispronunciation from Mark.
And at least it's just one of our sponsors that you're mispronouncing.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Frank's been a lot of people on our intros.
Let's see, Dr. Tim Franklin. Asparagus on the intros. Boy, are we in trouble.
7 minutes in.
Already got the first asparagus.
Yeah, that's got to be a record.
All right. First up, we've got some project updates, which means I get to push that button and then that button.
We're not going to do What's Your Life with Ron?
Ron, are you up for that?
Sure, why not? I'm here. Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'll
Take
give him
it
a
away,
pass now.
Curtis.
So it's a brand new panelist, I should say. So I don't know anything about you off the top of my head. So how did you get into the CoCo and how did you find us, etc.?
I'll just throw in real quick though. He's been on the Discord. Alan and I, Exile in Paradise. We've been chatting with him for the past couple weeks, and Alan extended an invitation to him today to come onto the show if he'd like to.
Yeah, a con job.
In that case, Brian, you can take over the interviewing part because I have not been chatting with him. So
yeah, Ron, why don't you share a little bit with us? I know you have a lot of enthusiasm for the 8-bit computers, and you've been trying to come up to speed, and you've been showing a lot of interest in the color computer. But maybe give a little bit of a background of how far back these computers go for you, where you're from, what do you do?
Okay, I'll start with the last question. First of all, my name is Ron. Last initials are. I live in Newcastle, Delaware. I was introduced to Discord through a couple friends, and I was on the computer looking for an SSD for another computer I have, and I came across a listing on Facebook Marketplace for a Tandy 1000, and that was the computer I had growing up. And so I got that computer, needless to say, and I got it working, and I've got disks. I can transfer information back and forth to it. I got an interface for it, and I joined a couple Tandy forums just by searching on Discord, and I came into this forum. It was kind of impulsive because I didn't know anything about a TRS-80. That wasn't in my generation, but as I joined the forum and I started asking questions, I started beginning to get an interest into it, and just talking to you guys. You guys are, first of all, you're really nice people. You've been really open and honest in what you've been sharing with me regarding.
Show's not over yet.
That's in the mail.
Give it some.
You can fool them sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm a little nervous. Nervous. I'm not a great public speaker or anything, but
yeah, you just bunch of friends here.
Yeah. So, I started learning about the chips, the processors for the TRS-80, and how advanced they were for their time, and how they can accept 16-bit instructions properly configured. And that's what interests me, because at a core level, I like to mess with the components, the integrated circuits. I like to build circuits to do the different things, transistor logic, things of that nature. And so that's really where my interest lies. And also through that, I'm seeing the game challenges. That seems kind of cool. I would like to join that. And obviously I'll probably be getting my butt whipped because these games aren't for my generation, but it would be fun to just participate. And
I don't know. You're younger than some of us here, and I think you probably have better reflexes. You might do better.
Better reflexes. And everybody can always beat Mark B.
But
definitely younger.
That's it.
Younger. He's got more hair and it's black. He stands up.
So thank you guys for inviting me here. And I look forward to learning and sharing what little bit of knowledge I have.
Cool. Have you got a CoCo yet, or are you just running stuff through emulators at this point, or?
I haven't even got an emulator yet. I'm just honestly just listening.
There's plenty to choose from, and some of the authors of them actually come on the show every once in a while too. So you have any questions about them, a lot of us can answer from the user side, and then you can actually ask some of the programmers themselves.
And the best game is Nukoi.
Only in Nick's mind.
Hey, Reloaded
Stop
is
trying to
actually
scare
quite
him off.
playable.
Stop trying to scare him off, Nick.
Anyway, welcome to the show. Welcome to the community. We'll get you up and running an emulator so you can join in the Game On Challenge.
And Ron, I'm not, if you haven't picked up by a lot of some of the accents, though, this community, you know, we've talked about it on Discord with you, though. But for example, Nick Marentes, he's calling to us from Australia. We got Frederick and Curtis and Ken. They're up in Canada.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a global community as well.
Yeah, some of the people in the chat are from like England and mainland Europe and stuff too. So.
Oh wow, that's
And
really
Brazil.
cool.
Henry's from outer space.
Brazil.
Yeah, there's a big scene in Brazil.
Yeah, actually, they're having a retro show right now in Brazil, and actually, Erico Monteiro is supposed to be popping on, hopefully, to show us around the show floor. He's actually got an exhibit this series doing some animated low-res graphics. The only continent I think we're not currently represented by is Antarctica. We're still waiting for our first person from there. So.
Those lazy
I think they're still using dial-up.
So what was your very first computer, Ron?
Atari 800 XL.
Oh, good one.
Okay.
Too bad Sloopy isn't on. He'd
be. That's his starting.
Yeah.
He lives 10 miles from me, believe it or not.
Oh, we're sorry.
Nice.
Yeah, we're sorry.
Everybody at once goes, we're sorry. Sloopy, your reputation precedes you.
Yeah. He should be here in about an hour or so. Okay.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
All right, let's see. Project updates. Let's see. First up I had on the list, I had Rick actually first up on my list. Where'd he go? There he is. We're not hearing you, Rick.
We're not hearing you, Rick. Are you muted?
It's a CoCoIO.
Hello?
Yeah,
I'm
there you are.
working on the next version of my CoCoIO, which is a little less specific than the past ones. So you can see the ROM pack's about full now. So I've achieved that goal.
You have a couple
There's
of
room in the
millimeters
bottom
up
right
here.
corner. There's room in the bottom right corner.
Oh yeah, we could add something down there. I don't know what yet.
I just have to make it the size of a disc
Real-time
controller,
clock.
that's all.
Yeah, real-time clock.
Yeah, we could get bigger. This is more generic circuit, so I've kept the network part and the ROM, and I've added a 3v3 to 5 converter chip and a latch, so I can remember 8 bits of state, so we can get rid of things like the read-write switch and just handle it programmatically. But mainly I'm ending up with this expansion connector down here, so I can do a bunch of different projects on this same board without having to, you know, I'm getting old. It takes me too long to draw these things now.
Was that programmatically or problematically?
Well, both, I think.
Which is hard to say.
It's like the jump from the 1980s network cards that you had switches to the 1990s network cards that are soft configurable. Yay.
Right, and then now the H is for human interface device. I'm hoping of some sort that we can plug into the mystery socket here. And
We have to put your
hopefully-
finger in there or something?
Hopefully add a USB port or something on the side of it. So we'll see where all that goes.
Well,
So
that's
when
why
is
it
it
has
available?
pins.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and yeah, this is cool, ain't it? I just love tools we got today. There we
Oh,
go.
look at that.
It would look like that if it was put together, except for the chips we don't have models for.
Oh, that's
Big
why.
gap in the middle.
It's all.
Yeah, it's all wired, I think, underneath there.
This
All
is
right,
making all the connect. Well, yeah, it's
It's 2 layers, I presume?
yeah, green front and back is red and blue.
And it's all under $400.
Hey, we're trying to keep it, you know, in that $60-$70, but man,
So now I need to make the jump to a 4-layer board.
right? Well, I need to get a little smarter, I guess.
Yeah, 4 layers, just ground and power plane. It's a
This
6-layer
is
board.
this is my knowledge level right now. So this is what we're building. Anyway, I just wanted to report that I have actually accomplished something. Some of this works on a breadboard, so now we'll see what happens. I found the chips really interesting. I can buy the 22V10 for $7 from a known source, guaranteed, or $2 a piece if I'll buy 100 of them from a source that I probably don't think I'll be buying 100 of them from. But anyway, that's my CoCo adventures for the last couple of weeks.
Nice.
Cool.
Okay. Let's see.
Brian's next.
Okay.
Unless there's anybody that has something quick that they want to do, because I might be able to spend about 20-25 minutes.
He's gonna, he gets his whole
save Brian for
warehouse.
last. Save Brian for last.
No, put Brian on. I've got 3 hours to go through, so.
Well, no, as soon as you say the word Neutroid, we cut you off. It'll be quick.
Well, I don't think that'll be too long.
So Bob, you're up.
All right, let me switch cameras here. And first of all, unplug something here. So I've been working on my Athena Arduino programming skills a little bit for the, not Athena, Artemis keyboard for the LED. Let's find the right camera. That's not it.
Do you have more than 2?
I have 3 right now.
Ooh.
He's got every angle covered.
Yeah, we don't want to see the bathroom one.
I don't want to use this one. Okay, I'll switch. I'll take that. Okay, so anyway, I wrote a more sane program for the LED, and it actually recognizes the turbo, my turbo board. So normally if you're just sitting here playing, it's a nice slow transition, red, green, blue, and it's not too bright, not too distracting. Then I have to simulate it. But if the turbo kicks in, then it switches to this, like a yellow heartbeat.
Oh, so the speed of the blink indicates the speed of the CPU is running at.
Yeah, kind of. But it's just orange. You can't see the color very good with this camera. But it's just an orange, kind of fades to red and then goes back to orange. And then I can't do the triple speed test, but that one's going to basically do red pulsing, and it'll be like twice as fast as this, kind of like the heartbeat in
I was just thinking you need to have that synced to Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
we'll make AJ play it again, but we'll cover that later.
Just put a microphone connected to the speaker output. Anyway, okay, so that's the first thing. The other
brake
thing
key
is
red?
My brake key is red.
Completely red?
No, it's got a like a white label on there, some weird cherry design. Blows out the camera real good.
So Ron, that's a keyboard that Bob has designed and built on his own.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very impressive.
Unplug the turbo jumper. It goes back to the red, green, blue. But this was the main thing about this keyboard is the arrow keys. So.
Yeah, because you got the side up and down arrows to match the old CoCo 1-2 for those games as well. So you actually are kind of covering both bases.
Right. I kind of need to get my HDMI capture device.
Rick, you gonna carry those?
What's that? Oh, I don't really stock anything really. I make stuff. I might get into that though. I had the cash to do it. Thing about stocking other people's stuff is you got to either buy them or,
right,
have some deal going on. It's not as simple as when you're just making stuff and selling it.
All right. So this is another thing I've worked on recently here. I've been working on a titler for the CoCo 3, a video titler for my actual video editing. And I actually put in time code your minutes and seconds and the duration that you want it to show. And it just basically runs off the timer. So it's approximate, it's not perfect. When that happens.
That's why you need to run it in OS 9. So it's time aware.
Yeah, I'll get that real-time clock, right? So
I got the 60 hertz interrupt. You can actually generate a signal, so it'll just tell your program every 60th second or however many count you want to process the interrupt.
It's not perfect, but it was pretty close. Like after I think a minute 20, it's like at a minute 25. So you can kind of compensate for that.
Yeah. Plus, if you don't tell anybody that's watching that it's based on 60th of a second, they'll never know what the time is supposed to be.
We do now.
Yeah, but who watches this show?
Yeah.
I'll put in a dummy here to start at 0 minutes, 1 second, and stay up for 3 seconds.
Newtoid is great.
No false advertising.
That ain't gonna work.
It will on a deluxe.
I need that. I want the on-screen editor too.
Yeah.
Oh, not 5 minutes. 0, 10 seconds, 5,
Got a period there.
Now you got a period.
So it would do 10.5 minutes basically, and then give an error because of the missing parameter.
I think the panel is your on-screen editor right now.
Yeah. Right. Probably should fill Ron in on what a deluxe is.
We talked about
Deluxe. Deluxe is a computer that Radio Shack actually manufactured. The motherboards had the basic ROMs programmed. It had some additional hardware and stuff. This is back in the CoCo 1-2 era, CoCo 2 specifically. Supposed to be out by Christmas of '84, and at the last minute got canceled due to Radio Shack was a bit worried whether they could sell enough. They were worried that Motorola would produce enough video chips, because it used a special version that was a little bit different, and they were still selling the CoCo 2, so it got canceled and never got released. But 3 prototypes have shown up. And one of them, the one that Brian Weasler on the panel here has, actually has some of a beta or an alpha version of the updated ROMs, and it's the only one of the 3 that does.
It's not if I run this.
Well said.
So now it's drawn the graphic and got it in a buffer, and now I just hit a space bar and it's off and running. So I can literally chroma key this directly over a video if I have my timestamps right. I'm not doing anything now, it's just running on autopilot.
So you can put a picture in the background or a live video or what?
Yeah, basically it's you chroma key out the black and it just puts the lower third in my video, like under whatever I'm talking about, instead of doing them in Adobe, you know, with their professional looking graphics.
You do it on instead you do it on a CoCo with a graphics program that doesn't require a stupid subscription.
Right. Like this.
So much easier than the old days when you had to have a gen lock and all kinds of other things to get your graphics on screen, eh?
Right. It's overall a pretty simple program. Just the one limitation I have is without the real-time clock, it's you're limited to about 18 minutes before the timer rolls over.
Yeah.
So
you could extend it if you had a variable that every time the timer rolls
Yeah.
over, it adds one to it, and you could do
That's
it
what
that way.
I'm
But
basically going to do. Not just that, but yeah, it'll do like an accumulator of the time.
yeah, that was one nice thing about the Deluxe too, because they had that added new timer functions that actually would wrap on a day basis. You can go full day worth of timings.
And yeah, you can do like I'm gonna do like custom palettes and custom little logos in there. I actually have a plan for a CoCo logo in the bottom corner of it that will have a flashing cursor. So I'll be sure and post that when I get it all ready to go for public consumption.
Okay, that looks cool. I know Nick has some patches for basic, so you can use the 200 line or the 225 line vertical res in basic. Is that something that would help you? So you either put a bigger lower third or have more open room for the video over top, or?
I mean, I might get a little more vertical resolution out of it, but it doesn't necessarily help me that much in this because it's being scaled up to full HD anyway.
Oh, okay.
But it's also something that's such a fun little simple project. This might be a good learning project to switch over to Basic 09 or something.
Yeah, because it's a bit more advanced for doing this kind of thing, like say for the demo I did for Retro Rewind for Frank that's in the chat there, where I had the little scrolling logo and then it just puts some text, which doesn't move or do anything fancy.
Right. But it does have it already has the accommodations for a palette cycling register, and I just don't have that in the current graphic. I have had it in the past. It works already, so.
Oh, that's good.
Kind of neat.
Yeah, because then you can do little animations and stuff, and
right. I'm just
blinking and
I'm
pulsing.
Still,
you can have it match your light on your Athena there, where it pulses.
I'm still bogged down with my latest video that I'm doing on the CoCo 3 Plus reassembly, but it's almost done.
Cool.
Next.
All right, I think next up we had Nick.
Yeah, just get ready to put that disconnect Nick button if he starts bringing up Neutroid, okay?
Oh, damn.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, well, I think a continuation from last week where I mentioned we were talking about my, well, about the fact that way back in 1982, my very first commercial, you could say, game that I programmed on my TRS-80 was a adventure game called Stellar Odyssey. So that was 42 years ago when I was an 18-year-old kid in high school. Anyway, I got a request from Jim Gerrie, who said if I had the listing to that old program because it was written in BASIC, and that he'd be interested to convert it for the first of all MC10, and then he will do a CoCo version. Well, that has all come on, and we now have it. And I'll just bring up my share, and I'll share the web. Have a web page up. I'll just put it on. Is that?
Yeah,
is that
showing the right one.
Right. So it's a Stellar Odyssey. Call it the 2024 update, and I'll just unselect the text. So yeah, just talk a bit about my the original game. I've got an image there that shows the type of graphics you can expect, not get. It's a representation. The little screenshot you see there is the actual screenshot from the TRS-80 Model 1 version, and the graphic is what basically I had envisioned, I guess. So
Yeah, and you can kind of see when you drew it, because you drew the cover there for Stellar Odyssey just a little bit below it. It's kind of
Well,
the
yeah,
same scene.
I'll just go down. Yeah, that's right. So
You
I
kind
just
of
talk about the game and how back in the day I did it. It was motivated by Temple of Apshai and Rescue at Rigel. If anyone remembers those games on the TRS-80 in Apple, they were
Yep,
sort of
and Atari.
playing games, yeah. And I was interested in those games at the time, but I thought the graphics in those games and the sound left a bit to be desired. So I thought I'd do my own, and Stellar Odyssey was it. Now, back in the day when I went to sell it, of course, I had to make. I wanted it to look commercial, so I did. There's a mock-up here of the. Well, not a mock-up, a scan of my original paste-up masters, which I used to make the photocopies for the instructions, and then the whole thing went into a plastic bag on a cassette, and that's how I sold it back in the day. Mind you, I was only a 18-year-old kid. I think I only sold 20 copies, but when you're, a high school kid there, it was good pocket money. Anyway, I have a video of the old Model 1 version. I can see if that'll play, just so that people can. Is that video coming up?
Yep. Yeah, it did. I don't know if you have
So-
sound shared or not, but
I didn't share it. We don't need. Oh, did that come through? Did that sound effect come through?
Might have.
Yeah, I can hear some sound effects coming through. So
Oh, okay, so it is shared. Anyway, so yeah, basically I wanted it to be very graphical. So the character actually walks from tile to tile rather than just appearing, and the whole thing sort of updates fairly quickly. It's sort of got a bit like an adventure game whereby you can type commands like that one there, get floppy. So it's a bit of a text adventure, is a generic text adventure with graphics, and you've got your wounds and your fatigues, and you've got a pistol with energy. So this was back in 1982 I did this, so I was a bit of a smart cookie at the time, I would seem. So it looks pretty good. Anyway, I'll try and break out of that, if I can remember how.
if you can just go back button, you should go back to your original page.
Yeah, those buttons have disappeared at the moment. Okay, that should be back.
Yep.
So there, and then Jim Gerrie, as I said, contacted me, and he said, "Oh, can I? Would I be interested in having it converted to the MC10 for the CoCo?" So I thought, yeah, why not? I mean, I haven't seen this program in over 42 years, because that was about the last time I even played it. So he did, and a week later, he had the MC10 version up. A week later, he had the CoCo version. So I've been playing that a fair bit the last week, just making sure everything's working, and it seems to. So it's just like the TRS-80 version, except it's in color. And anyone can download it for free, just clicking on the link just there. And it's got both MC10 and the CoCo version for people to try. The MC10 one is obviously a CAS file, so you got to use it as a cassette, and then the CoCo one is a disc.
What are the system requirements for them, Nick? Do you need one of the memory expansions on the MC10, and how much RAM on the CoCo?
On the MC10, yeah, you need at least the 20, is it a 16K?
Yeah, 16K edition is what the Tandy one was. So
that's right, and on a CoCo, you need a 16K CoCo at least. So I thought, oh well, I got the game going, but one of the things that I notice, of course, nowadays is that we don't have time to sit there and do the maps as you play. So I thought I'd go and I'd provide the maps. So oops, hang on, I'll just bring that up. So there are 3 map areas in the game. So to save people having to go through and spend all the time to draw the maps, especially the second map, which is fairly take a fair while to map out. The maps are done, but I don't show where all the objects are. You still have to look for those. I thought I'll keep a bit of the game adventure element there for people to play. At least I take away the frustration of having to draw a map. And I've given a few hints in each one just to make it a bit easier to get through. So you've got the 3 maps, which is maps 1, 2, and 3. Some instructions there just to help you get going. And that's it now. So Stellar Odyssey comes back after 42 years, as I say there, a 42-year-old epic of adventure and exploration. That's the biggest load of BS I've ever heard. But anyway, it sounded good. It sounded good for the webpage. So there it is.
After 42 years, he's still trying to find the exit.
I found it last week. No.
Now, I do know, because I've been in your page numerous times, you actually made a sequel to this on the Model 1 a year later called Stellar Odyssey 2.
Yes, there is a sequel. Jim hasn't converted that yet. He's taking a bit of a break for Christmas and all that. But when you do actually complete this game, it doesn't just end there. Well, no, rather it can end there. Depends on how you end it. But it can also continue. And it tells you, stay tuned for Stellar Odyssey Part 2. And I did do a sequel a year later that continues the story. But that'll be the next one that Jim will hopefully convert. And I'll do a separate download and web page for that. But there's just bringing back a bit of my history. And as I said, I hadn't played this thing in over 40 years. So I played it all the way through to make sure that everything does still make sense. Hence, I've added a few of those. I did the map. I had to draw up the map manually. So I went through and created the maps. So that saves everyone else having to do it. And then I just threw in a few hints, which I thought, well, some people might not quite understand how to get through something. And, with adventure games, you don't get everything, you get stuck and you never finish it. So hopefully it'll make it a bit easy.
You provided the maps, and you've also got some little hints you put in, just a few. Like, you're not telling where everything is, but enough so that people might skip some of the things that would frustrate the heck out of them these days.
So basically, when I played it, because I couldn't even remember everything that I put in there, so I was a first timer essentially when I played it. So the things I thought were a bit confusing and all that, I thought I'd just put a few hints in there so that people don't have to get through the same confusion. But yeah, I had fun with it. It was good. It's an adventure game. Like of the 3 maps, the first map is the easier one. It's a bit more like an adventure. The second one is more of a run around, dodge the aliens type romp that you have to basically get out of the maze. So it's a bit less of the adventure element and a bit more of the action arcade element. And basically you're trying to get through this big maze and your aliens beaming in and who start to fire at you. Of course, being a role-playing adventure, you get wounds and you get fatigue, and the more strikes you take from the alien wounds you more, and the more you run and trying to get away from it fatigues you more. So you've got to balance between when to run, when to fight, and when to rest, so that you can get through the maze. Otherwise, you just end up dying prematurely. And there is a tactic in doing it. So I worked it out. So I figured, well, let's see if other people can work it out. And then the third map is a bit of a combination of the arcade map number 2 and the adventure of map number 1. So I thought I'd mix it up that way. It's not an overly complex story, but anyway.
Yeah, and on map number 3, you mentioned to me that there's actually a couple of different outcomes that can happen. I think that's where you're hinting before, that it'll continue into the sequel of Stellar Odyssey 2 if you do it a certain way, right?
Well, you can actually complete your mission, and your mission being, well, I won't say, I will say, you have to destroy the place basically, and you can achieve that. The problem is, of course, that you die with it, but you can survive. There is a way you can survive. If you survive, then it says, stay tuned for Stellar Odyssey 2. And that's where the second one kicks in. So yeah, 2 outcomes.
Yeah, I just wanted to have that mentioned so that people, even if they win it technically by blowing the place up, as you said, that they know there's another thing to try to accomplish too.
I do give plenty of hints, so you should be all right. Yeah, as you see on map 3, I just say, you're on your own for this one. Only hint, use pull to get something started. That's all I say.
Yeah. I do like your interface for typing in commands, because one of the things a lot of people hate doing is having to type in the full commands and then you spell something wrong and it rejects it and whatever else. But you have that kind of hot verb thing where you just hit the first letter and it fills in the verb for you.
Yeah, as you saw on the Model 1 version, and the CoCo is the same. I'll just see if I can start the video. So on the the TRS-80 Model 1 version, you just press one letter. In this case, you'll see fire. Well, fire fires. When you fire, you actually do fire. You see the pellet and hits the alien, it blows up. But normally, you got sprint. Sprint is run. Examine, for example, you just press E in the word, or get in this case. You press G, a get pops up, and then you have to type this the remaining part. So get floppy disk, dot it, and examine. Whatever. I won't go through the game, but yeah,
there's help too built in as well. So.
Yeah. But
that was one of the frustrating things for a lot of people playing text adventures, because most of them never listed what the verb list was. And there's a few common ones that every text adventure game uses, like get and drop and that kind of stuff. But there's also quite a few that are unique and different game writers wrote with different keywords in mind. And that was sometimes the most frustrating part of the game, is trying to guess what the heck did the developer want to do this one action, when there's like 15 different ways you could possibly word it, and you have to like try to figure it out. It's annoying as heck. And in your case, with the way you set this up, you don't have to worry about that.
Well, even if you're wondering what the command is, you just do, I think it's V for, oh no, H, sorry, H, help. And it lists all the commands.
Yeah, so you were thinking ahead, because in 82, not many people did that. A, list all the commands up front. You had to try to figure them out yourself. And then B, you don't have to sit there and type the whole darn thing in. You just hit the first letter.
Yeah. How do I get out of this?
So it's available for download on your site. Does Jim have it on his site as well?
I think he does, yeah.
I know his big, gargantuan zip download of every single game. He's ported all 700 or whatever the heck it is of them. He can get that in there, but
to get to my website, just www.nickmarentes.com will take you to my main website, and that lists all the programs that I'm selling. But if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, you'll find a link to my project archive site, where I list every project that I've ever done from 1982, basically, up till now. And
that includes hardware and software, we should mention.
Yeah, everything. Well, everything stupid that I've done. So just scroll to the bottom of the list, and Stellar Odyssey is there. You could go up and read the earlier original Stellar Odyssey and the Stellar Odyssey 2 as well. But yeah, go down to the bottom of the list and you can find out all the you can find that page I just showed you now.
Yeah, I should mention in the chat here, Eric said he's a Mac programmer. He uses HyperCard on the original Macs, like the 68K ones, and he's done a game that's similar to that with a drop-down list control that can be used along with the typing. Obviously, because it's in HyperCard for a Mac, it's a bit more graphically interfaced. Also, hi Eric, and Trina also joined us as well in the chat. So we got a few more viewers. We're sorry.
And that's it for me.
Cool. So this is a project update you got to do. You didn't have to do the programming yourself. How did you manage to do that?
No, I did no programming, and there we are. Just wait for the money to come in. Oh, hang on, it's free. Ah, damn! I didn't think of that, did I? Okay. So it was another distraction from my other game, of course. So now I'm back to my other main game.
Yeah.
Until
the CoCo 3 extravaganza.
Well, yeah. I think now Brian.
Yep. Next up, we have Brian. And Brian moved on me. Where are you now? There you are.
Okay. Just got a few things I wanted to share today with you guys. Been doing some recent acquisitions and stuff, but just briefly, I don't want to get into too deep in the weeds here with this, but some of you might have seen a post that I did on Facebook where I was had a white CoCo 1. I even did a little bit of a post too about maybe encouraging people to look at my eBay site, and I may send that link again too. And so what I'm going to be doing is, as you guys know, I enjoy the collecting and everything, but I have a lot more that I want to do, not necessarily with the collecting side of things, but other projects. I want to get more archiving going and some videos going, showcasing some of this stuff. And so I've been, over the past 6 months, I've been really organizing a lot and sorting through things and trying to get an inventory going of everything I have. And so along that line there, I do have duplicates of some of the things that I have in my collection. And so what I'm slowly doing and going to continue to do through the rest of the year, probably even through the first of the year, I'm going to be making those things available. Now I've kind of gone back and forth in my head a little bit about what's the best way to do it. Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Discord. And to be quite honest, I'm just going to use eBay. Just for the simplicity for it. I really, really, really want to get this stuff into the hands of CoCo people. I don't want things to get into the hands of flippers, which, it can't control that, but I do want to get things into the hands of CoCo people. So I'm not really to be promoting the whole thing, but I am going to be listing CoCos out here at some point in the very near future. The prices, as a lot of us seen with some of the CoCos and stuff like that, most of what I'm going to be doing initially is going to be CoCo 1s and 2s. I will be getting into some CoCo 3s. I have sold a couple CoCo 3s recently, but those were ones that really needed some TLC and needed a lot of love. And they did go to good CoCo people. I recognize the names. And so hopefully those things will get the TLC they deserve and be used and loved again. So,
well, speaking of Brian, there's an update. Mike Gosweffel, who actually bought one of the CoCo 1s that you mentioned, he said he picked up the white CoCo 1. I got the case fixed up.
Oh, good. Yeah, that one was in pretty bad shape. The along the bezel, well, this is just a CoCo 2, but just for representation, this part right here, it was completely cracked off right here, and also there was a crack right here. And then where this screw went on through the bottom of the base, the part that's on the bottom, that was completely broken off. There's no rubber feet on it, but the machine was functioning, but it was just going to need some TLC on the case. So again, some of that I'm going to be trying to advertise, but the prices of the CoCos are going to be very, very reasonable. Some of the machines initially are going to be ones that have maybe hardware issues. Keyboard either doesn't work, video issues, or maybe it doesn't even power on at all. So for those of you that are interested in repair and tinkering around or looking for a machine that you want to work on, I'm going to be very clear in the description. So yeah, I'm going to be putting some CoCos out there. I've done a lot of books lately. I'm going to be doing some more books and eventually get into software and ROM carts as well. Just trying to take care of duplicates because I've been fortunate to acquire some large lots over the years, and so and sometimes you're looking for certain things, but other things come with it. And so anyway,
you got another update here too. Just to just to update you on the stuff you've been selling. So William Athing says, I bought a Tano Dragon from Brian recently, just soldered up a new John Whitworth power supply for it last night, got to tune it, install it today.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, I posted the link in the description on the eBay listing there, pointing somebody if they wanted to go to that. And yeah, John Whitworth's board is really nice. So excellent. Thanks for the update there. So, yep. Yeah. So like I said, I want to get this stuff into the community. I wish I had a better way of trying to control where these machines are going, but and there is ways to do it, but I have to be honest, I don't have the time. As much as I want to get done and just other things within life. So eBay makes it easy for me. I know everybody's not a big fan of it, but it works for me. And so that's the direction I'm going to go. So hopefully a lot of this stuff gets into the hands. Some stuff that maybe doesn't sell, or I just don't have time. I'm hoping to bring some stuff to CoCo Fest to maybe sell and or donate to the Glenside auction to have some things out there too as well. So kind of on a mission. So more to come. But I appreciate anybody that wants to pick up any of those. And like I said, the prices are going to be good. So hopefully we can, maybe in addition to getting machines in the people's hands, maybe we can lower that that eBay curve a little bit on the pricing.
Yeah.
You know, if people are out there, people that aren't necessarily in the CoCo community, but maybe do a search for CoCo and see some CoCo 3 out there for $300 and think they have a pot of gold. And which, you know, that those prices are just, they've just been curving upwards, and it really starts to make them, you know, unavailable for some people. Which is kind of unfortunate, because I hate to see a machine not sell and the person thinks that it's not worth anything. That's why they, you know, no one's buying it. Not because they think it's, you know, no one's interested, but really it's just the price. And then so it never gets sold. And so I want to try to get machines out there. So anyway, more to come. And we'll see where this goes. But with that, I have acquired some things lately, and I'd like to share some of those with you guys. Let me switch camera here. Switch to this camera. And pick the right one here. Boom. So I saw this here that I thought was kind of interesting. I think Curtis, you might have mentioned there's maybe a series of these. Did I talk to you about these?
You did. There wasn't a series. It was Alfredo who wrote it, and he's actually in the CoCo Facebook group. He just joined here in the last 6 months, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He had this running story of the history of the CoCo, and he actually got into it real early. So he knew some of the very early third-party software, when it came out, who did it, etc. And he basically just kept updating this for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then somebody else took over the last couple of years and added a few, you know, late things, but it was something that was freely available and downloadable from CompuServe and Delphi, etc. And then as it shows here, you know, Spectrum Projects, which is what Bob Rosen ran, actually made a printed out version so that people who didn't want to, you know, download a text file and read it on a CoCo screen could actually get an actual book.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat. It's just a little summary. They just kind of highlight some things here. I'm not sure if this is coming through or zoomed in enough for you guys, but I'll just kind of read here, for example. So you got like July of 80 to December of 80, January of 81 to February of 81. And he just kind of chronicles down through here all the way through to 85. And with that, just kind of makes highlights. They, you know, talks about, you know, Spectral Associates, CoCo Byte, Rainbow Magazine, Telewriter, Donkey King, and Dragon here, Hard Disk, CoCo Max, the ears cartridge done by
Speech Systems, I think.
Speech Systems, thank you. So one thing I did think was kind of interesting is it said hard disk here. So let me just kind of show that real quick here. I think I got the right page here. Was that 23? 25. Where did I read that at here?
Brian, what's your eBay name?
I'll grab that and give it to you, and I'll paste it in the chat here in a minute.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
William Athing said BR Weiss-93.
Okay. Where's it at here? I should have had it marked here for you guys here, so I'd be more prepared. Did I have the right page? Maybe it was 23. Yeah, 23. I'm sorry. I'm looking on 25. Still got it here? Okay. I just thought it was kind of interesting because about a month or so ago, I shared something that I came across, and it says right here the the first East Coast Rainbow Fest is held April 6th through the 8th and features the first CoCo hard disk from Software Support, and that was that hard drive that I was fortunate to come across there. So I thought that was kind of
nice,
kind of cool there. But yeah, they just kind of just a little write up here, little paragraphs, 2 or 3 sentences, maybe a whole paragraph here of each one of the little topics here. But CoCo Chronicles, I just thought it was kind of a neat name.
Yeah, I can't remember if the last version of it is on the archive, but I think that particular one there, that one cuts off around 85, 86 or something.
Yeah, 85.
Yeah, so it doesn't even have the CoCo 3 mentioned or the TC9 and some of the other stuff. And the completely up-to-date one, some of it in the 90s was finished by somebody else. I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but there's an expanded version of it that's available.
Very cool. So yeah, so I thought that was fun. Let's see here, where am I going to set that at here? Next is Henry. Are you still watching? You still out there, Henry?
Yeah, I'm here. I just have video turned off because I'm moving around a lot.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if are you seeing the screen at all?
I'm seeing something.
CCForth.
Fourth. Yep, I do see fourth.
Yep, CCForth here by Frank Hogg, and this is a whole big thick book here. So I thought that was really really nice. It goes through just a whole bunch of stuff in here, a whole bunch of information. I don't understand Forth yet, but hopefully maybe this will give me a little bit of education. But in addition to the book, also got the disc that came with it too.
Nice, nice.
Yeah, and the CCForth is the one that ran under Disk Basic, and XForth, if I remember, runs under Flex.
Okay. Yep. Like I said, I haven't dug into this yet. I just recently got this here, so excuse me. So yeah, so that and the fourth was is it a program? It's a programming language, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, it's a programming language. It is a stack-based programming language. So if you can speak RPN or otherwise know how to use older HP calculators, you'll be right at home in Forth.
Okay. Very cool. So there was that I got. Excuse me. The next thing here, speaking of Flex, was this book here. So the 609 Flex operating system. And
that's by the original authors of Flex too, Technical Systems Consultant,
yeah.
TSC.
And well, this person here, they actually paid almost $300 for this. All this stuff I thought was kind of neat. It's always fun when you find the receipts still in these things, but yeah, it goes through the whole man. What's that? I'm sorry.
1980s dollars.
1980s dollars, exactly.
Yeah.
And then
like $600-700 now or something.
So there's actually 2 parts in here. Then there's also a Flex Programmer's Manual in the back here. So lots of reading to do. And
for those that don't know, there's actually a Flex group on Facebook, and TSC is actually, I think, what they use as their background, like that logo you see on the bottom. That's the background logo for the Facebook page.
Okay.
We have a Flex group on our CoCo Discord too.
Yep.
Correct. And for those of you that use OS 9 Ease of Use, there's actually a version of Flex that runs under OS 9, provided by David Weens, who did a lot of software and hardware development for the CoCo back in the 80s.
So yeah, there was that there. And then I like my books. So here's one I haven't seen before that I recently got here. Start with Basic on the Tandy TRS-80 color computer by Don Monroe.
And illustrated by Bill Tidy. I don't know this one.
So it has this plastic cover on it, which I haven't taken. And the reason is because this used to be a library book.
Oh, wow.
But it's just, kind of your typical book, though, but it had some math and everything in here. So I haven't had a chance to read through the book at all, but some illustrations and what. But yeah, so it might be another fun book to
what year did that one come out, just out of curiosity? Because I've never heard of that book, never mind seen it before.
Or when was the first checkout?
Yeah, right.
right.
They may have covered it up down here. What does it say here? I don't see the date there, but we got some punches here for July of '83.
Okay, so that's like in CoCo 1 territory.
So somebody paid a library fine for that book.
Right? Yeah, it hasn't been returned yet. So, but I think this is North Hampshire or Hamptonshire, how we pronounce it, libraries. So is that actually is that overseas? No, I don't know. Because it talks about sending, please send £6, including postage and package too.
So the fine's still outstanding.
Yes.
That's kind of weird though, because if it was produced in the UK, they would have spelled color with the OUR, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
No, it was rented in the UK or loaned in the UK and repatriated. That's what happened.
So yeah, so that'd be a fun book to go through. And then one more book here.
I don't think the early color computers did use OUR. I can't remember. I think even over here it said.
Oh, it still had it.
Oh, maybe.
So here's one here: utility routines for the Tandy and TRS-80 color computer, Volume 1. So
routines that will otherwise take years of programming experience to learn. I like that.
Right?
So let's hear, what are they? Let me just kind of give you some of the chapters here.
Yeah. That one's definitely more recent, though. It has a picture of a CoCo 2 on the cover. So
we got border creation, clear key disable, command keys, cursor styles, error skip, skip machine language there, full length errors, graphic scroll, key clicker, line auto increment. So just kind of a little example there. Super error scroll.
Does it say March 85?
March of 85. Yeah. And Microcom Software, the producers of the book, that's the company that sold like Word Power and a bunch of software for the CoCo 3, especially later on, but they've sold a fair bit for the CoCo 1 and 2 as well.
So yeah, so another, I didn't see this one out on the archive at all. So we'll have to look and see if it's available or if this author's out there. I know that gets to be a little bit of a touchy area sometimes for some authors there. As far as, having their works,
just one in particular, but
so anyway, then the last thing that I'd like to share with you guys today, let's see here, and where's my button at here? Zoom, get my hand out of there. Come on, find it.
Focus. There we go.
There we go. Here, actually, let me turn it upside down here so you guys can read it.
Spectral Associates.
Spectral Associate PROM board down here, it says. So there's three.
So those would each be 2K ROMs then, or?
I'm not exactly sure. I haven't peeled the stickers back to see if those are 2K or, if it's capable of holding 4/8. So this would be 3/8. So it'd be 24.
Second from the left, it says 27 something, 2708. Right above the P2.
Yeah.
No, it just below the sticker there.
27. Oh
Looks
boy.
like 2708, isn't it?
My bifocals aren't focusing on that. Let's see here. What do we got? I need to get a little light on it.
I will mention though, like a CoCo 1 and 2, which this would have been designed for, only handles up to 16K ROM on the cartridge port. It can't do 32, so I'm guessing it wouldn't go beyond.
It says HN462732G.
Oh, 2732. Yeah, so it's 32 K bits, which would be divided by 8, 4K. So yeah, so that's a 16K board. So it's got 12K ROM on it, unless the other two are, different size.
Right. So I'm going to switch cameras. You guys give me a moment, talk amongst yourself. I'm going to switch cameras here, and we're going to plug this in so you guys can see what this is.
Oh, okay. I was just about to ask, is there anything on those ROMs or are they blanks?
Oh, there's something on these ROMs.
I always love.
Is it the full version of deluxe color bay? No, I'm just kidding.
The original Neutroid.
12K.
There we go. Okay, let me switch cameras here, guys. Whoops, not that.
Oh, it's a digitized picture of you and your dog.
Exactly.
Yeah, nice dog.
Yeah, here we go. Boom. Spectral
Flex.
Associates Flex Plus. Release 2.0.
Round Flex.
February 1st, 83.
On ROM. Yeah.
And then I can't read the third line there. It's kind of garbled there. It's Flex something.
Yeah, FlexOS 110130 or 83. So that would be the release date November 1st for that particular version.
Copyright TSC Inc.
Yeah.
And then
TSA is the
that's-
originators of Flex. Multiple CoCo companies made ports. TSC did their own. Spectral did one, and they actually had a 64K RAM supercharger board to give people 64K without having to modify the case. There was a cartridge. And then Frank Hogg, of course, did their version of Flex, which I think is probably the most widespread one.
So I have this plugged into a CoCo 2. I'm using the CoCo VGA right now, doing the capture there. So I might play with it a little bit because it on my screen it looks just as I hate to use the word bad, but it looks the same with what you guys are seeing. So I'm going to see if I can't get some better quality video. I might try the RGB to HDMI to see if it gives me something better. But this is all I've been able to get so far is the 3 pluses. Anything
That's
that
the
I
prompt.
try typing in here as far as a flex command, it just goes to the next line and sets there. Now,
Yeah, well, Flex requires a disk drive basically. So this would require a multi-pack and a floppy drive with some of the Flex extra commands. This is basically just the boot kernel.
Because you got to have all your library stuff. Yeah.
Yep. And so Alan and I were playing with this earlier, and he made the same comment that it's probably looking for a drive. So every time you type in a command, I'm assuming it makes a call out to the drive, reads a library.
And there's no
reads
drive,
the-
so it just comes
Right.
back with the prompt again. Because plus is a standard prompt for Flex.
Right. And so, and there's nothing I had to type. As soon as I turn the machine on, this thing just immediately, this is what it comes up to. So, this,
it's like the old versions of OS 9 on other machines was actually, well, OS 9 is ROMable, so you could actually have it boot up instantly, and then you'd attach, terminal devices or drive devices or whatever else you needed for a particular application.
right. So I thought this was pretty cool that
Nice.
that,
Yes.
this was here. So yeah. I said there's really nothing to type in here. If I do like cat for catalog, it just boop. That's all I get. And it's just
Checking the
I'm
drive.
assuming
Wait, there isn't
right.
one.
Now, I don't know what sort of a time length that this has, but I've had it sit here for 10 minutes and it doesn't time out. Like
Yeah, it's waiting
like
for you to
if
insert
were to
that
do
disk,
something
Brian.
with a
Hurry up.
regular RS DOS,
Yeah,
it
you
would,
need-
eventually, fail if it can't read something off
Dump
the
the
drive. It's
ROMs.
just sitting here
What you need is
waiting. So
a command that doesn't require the disk access.
I was
Anyone
trying that, but anything that I typed, I was kind of thumbing through the catalog and I was just randomly trying different commands and they all do the
Right.
same thing. So like Curtis
Well,
was alluding
the
to
way
this.
Flex is like OS 9, except it doesn't have memory resident modules except for the one actually running.
Okay.
And I guess
Yep.
the core of this kind of shell thing. So basically, every single thing you try to run is a .cmd, and it's a little command file for whatever you're doing. So it has to load it off disk for every command.
Right. So, but anyway, nothing more to really show there. I might dig into this a little bit. I'm sure this is something maybe Mikey's kind of our
Flex guy,
kind of
yeah.
big flex
Flex
guru guy there. So he might find this interesting, or maybe he can assist me on something I could have
Yeah, because I
either
think
on a
he was
CoCo
looking.
SDC.
I think he was looking for the Spectral Associates because he's got the TSC version. He's got some of the multiple versions of the Frank Hogg one because it went through multiple revisions as the years went on.
Mhm.
But I don't think he had any of the Spectral ones, or only had the manual or something. So yeah, he might be very interested in this.
Yeah.
Dump the ROMs.
Dump the ROMs. Yes, I will be dumping the ROM because, I mean, this card, whenever this would have been made back in the day, I'm sure this all could be combined onto a single ROM if somebody actually wanted to make a modern
have
version
modern
of
cards.
this. Yep.
We have heck, it could load into a 16K bank on the CoCo SDC.
True.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Also want to mention James Jones, of course, who worked for Microcom with OS 9. He goes, and of course, +++ is also the string the Hayes modem used for going into command mode. He said an Oklahoma City group 6809 group had a dialable Flex machine, so you could dial and actually just use Flex. But they had to work around the prompt issue because +++ would emergently tell the modem, just ignore everything. You're in command mode.
As I remember, the +++ and a 1 second pause puts it in command mode, so it takes it off.
Yeah, and then ATH0, I hung up. Shoot.
Yep, exactly.
So, but yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep, thank
but
you.
Flex in 82, 83 on the CoCo was huge. If you remember Color Computer News, Frank Hogg did a 32-page catalog, I think in the February 1983 issue, and a lot of it was Flex. There was some hardware and some OS 9 stuff too, but it was mostly Flex.
Very cool. So, yeah, a lot of fun. That's all I got for you guys today.
Keep talking. I had to step away.
Oh, I can pull something else off the shelf if you need a little more time to go to the bathroom there, Mark. But I don't know if you guys want me to show something else. I don't know. There's nothing else really. I guess I could reach anything off behind me here. So, do you need more time, Mark?
Go for it. Yeah, show us one more thing.
One more
Show
thing.
Show us examples of what you'll be.
Well,
That's a
something
famous
that
Steve Jobs thing. There's one more
well,
thing, and then you surprise
there's-
somebody with.
Yeah, there's one thing I was really hoping for. I was trying to get on the on this auction and stuff. But here's a ribbon cable, and Rick, you might find this kind of interesting. So this is a 50-pin ribbon cable,
SCSI.
but it's multicolor. I don't know if it's a zoom in or not, but you can see that the every other row is also twisted. Is also twisted as well. But this was listed at the same time. There was a card out there, and if the person who has it happens to be listening, please post some pictures. There was an owl. There was a company called Owlware, and there was a owl disc controller that was out there, SCSI disc controller. Whoever won the auction, they wanted it just a little bit more than I did. So, but I got the ribbon cable that was listed out there. But I mean, any 50 pin would work though. But I think this would even work with your hard disk controller that you made.
It would, and that cable's like $40 from sea level. So
okay. So
yeah, the Owlware one I'm trying to remember. I
find.
think it was made by Roger Kripsky. Isn't that the guy that ran Owlware? Can't remember now. He was an active member of one of the local CoCo clubs.
Okay.
In the east part of the state, somewhere too.
So yeah, so this was kind of fun. I was kind of hoping to get it, but I mean, this is I'll probably be able to use it still with another future project. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah,
it's universal.
Well, the 50-pin SCSI cables are pretty standard, aren't they, Rick?
Yeah, they fit all kinds of things.
Yeah. So I just thought that the twisting was kind of nice. I'm assuming that would probably help with also. Cause, I mean, it's you can see the banding here. There's a twist here, twist here, twist here. So I mean, it's about every so often, but that would probably help with signal, I suppose. But
well, on the flat area, that's where you punch down another connector.
Yep.
It gets everything untwisted and back straight to punch another connector in two spots. Cool.
And then I guess one other thing that was real handy just here, because I have a couple of these, and I have two that I need to fix. But this has been kind of on my wish list as well. Was the service manual for the CGP 220?
Ah, the color inkjet.
Yeah. So I have a couple of these that are not functioning, and so I'm hoping. And one of the interesting things about this is that this was made by Canon. Made the printer, and it was relabeled for the for Radio Shack. And also, this thing internally runs on a 6809. There's a 6809 processor on the inside of this printer as well that it runs off of. So that's kind of a cool little twist there. So
there's even upgraded ROMs you can get for brighter, bolder print where it actually squirts twice as much ink. It's a little bit slower and goes through your ink faster, but it looks a lot better.
Well, those ink cartridges weren't cheap back in the day, and they're definitely not cheap on eBay now. So people usually dogpile on those things. But,
yeah, there's a black one and then a tricolor.
Correct. Yep. So, you back, Mark? There he is.
Yep, I'm back.
Okay. I successfully delayed enough there for you. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
So just a quick note, if you guys can pull up my screen, I have my my.
Oh, you got it working live.
Yeah. And if I hit break, the key goes away, and you just see. Get my
OK cool
up there.
just waiting for Mark to zoom me up here.
Yeah.
All right, there you go.
So now I'll just type run, and it'll bring the key back because it clears the screen. And
so how are you getting the gen locking to work?
It's not. There's no gen lock. It's
a green screen. I love it.
OBS.
OBS.
Yeah.
Oh, like
all of those problems just by shoving it in OBS.
I forgot about
just another camera input.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. OBS becomes the switcher and overlay.
Yeah.
So I'm just using my laptop's built-in camera with my HDMI input keyed over it.
Take that, Amiga.
Oh, very cool.
Okay. Let's see. Next up, commercial break, then game on. Or
Sounds
do we have
good.
any other items to discuss?
Ken's still activated. Yes, he is.
He's still moving. He's still moving.
Curtis had to. Oh, there's Curtis had to step away for something.
Is the coffee kicked in?
I'm just going to get some more before we start.
Okay.
Hey, Amy. Hey, Taylor. We're watching the CoCoNation show. Yeah, we are. Woo! You should too.
Hello, everyone. It's your good buddy, your good pal, Amigo, and joined by that dastardly The Brent from ARG Presents.
You're watching CoCoNation.
I feel like that should have been longer.
The CoCoNation show would like to thank the following patrons. AC's 8-Bit Zone, Alex Gayer, Brandon Donahue, Brian Walsh, Brian Weasler, Karen Anscombe, Coconut Bob, Daddy Burrito, David Ladd, Derek Smithson, Diego BF109, Don Barber, Eric Canales, Glenn Hewlett, Graham Wabke, Grant Leedy, Henry Strickland, Jason Warrens, Justin Larson, Ken Reichard, Kevin Holloway, Paul Fiscarelli, R. Allen Murphy, Retro Tech Time, Rob Inman, Rocky Hill, Steve Batson, The Break Key, TJB Chris, Tom C., Tom Gunderson, Tom S., and William A. Thing. Thank you so much, patrons. If you would like to support the CoCoNation show, please sign up at patreon.thecoconation.com.
Welcome to everybody's favorite segment, Who's New to Discord?
Wingnut2626 says, "Okay, my name is Ron, and it was suggested I come to this forum as I had a question about an adapter on my Tandy computer. I like to use the Tandy to play old games such as Donkey Kong. I have a Tandy 1000 TL/2, have questions, and am eager to share posts of running software etc. Cheers." The previous bios were edited for time. Thanks to Frederick Micro Hobbyist Sigard, Glenside Computer Club, Paul Fiscarelli, Paul Shoemaker, Tandy Color Computer 3, and the CoCoNation patrons for boosting the server. Please consider joining Discord and visiting the welcome section to read these bios in full and see what the community has to offer. Just go to discord.thecoconation.com.
See you on Discord.
There we go. Hey, we're back. That was my turn. All right, Ken, you ready? All right, I gotta do this manually here.
CoCoNation salutes Buck Owens.
All right, that's because I got too close to the button over there.
Shame on you. All right. Well, we don't have a video for the results this week, so I am going to read them live.
That's why I'm all messed up.
Dang. Well, we'll give you at
So
least
this
3 takes.
week, we played Zonks, and we had 15 players. We had Mike with 700, Mark B with 800, Ed Rhodes with 900, Dave Ladd and L Curtis Boyle tied with 1,000, Kieran and Canadian Retro Things tied with 1,100, Jim Rye got 1,200, Jason Warrens and Sloopy Malibu tied with 1,400, Bill Athing 1,500, Retro Rick 1,700, Tasman 4,700, Coconut Bob 6,200, and of course, leaving us all in the dust, our number one this week was Dr. Ted with 12,500.
Literally double number 2.
Yep.
He's a Cylon.
He is
Another
definitely-
Cylon. There's a few of them now.
He's AI. I don't believe Dr. Ted really exists. I think he is AI.
Actually, Buck Owens, Dr. Ted, are they really two separate people? Have we ever seen them in
Have
the
you ever
same
seen
room
them
at the same
together at
time?
the same time? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, isn't it interesting? Since Dr. Ted started, Buck Owens hardly ever posts scores anymore.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe he was getting tired of hearing his name all the time, and he wanted to be a bit more anonymous, so he just came up with these pseudonyms. And
So,
okay, so the CoCoNation salutes Dr. Ted.
Salute! All right, so as I said, we played Zonks this week, which was a rainbow type-in game. Fairly rare for a type-in game to be machine code. So, in the article here in Rainbow of what was
October
that?
of 85.
October 85. Yeah. So basically, it's just saying that there's great sound without sacrificing fast graphics. It improves the CoCo can produce sound without slowing the action. And as an added bonus, Zonks is fun. I'm not sure about that last statement. I would say Zonks is frustrating.
yeah, I don't know. Dr. Ted might have found it fun since he completely kicked our butts.
Possibly.
By the way, he says he's not an AI bot. He's more of a synth.
Oh, okay.
What, SIM or SIMP?
I'm going to go with SIM. He's a doctor.
Well, he said synth. SYNTH.
Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I get it. Okay, so now one thing here that definitely they include in the instructions here, which I think everybody should have followed if they tried to type this in, because the listing is literally like 4 pages long of data statements. Before testing Zonks, be sure to save the basic program you created, and just in case you made a typing error and it doesn't work, because there would be nothing like typing in probably 3 or 4 hours worth of data statements, running it, and then your computer crashes.
I've done that.
Then basically it's just talking about the game, and apparently I guess Dr. Ted could probably attest to this. I don't think any of us other people could do it, but after the 4th increase in difficulty, the game never gets any harder.
Hey,
But
Ken.
if you make it that far, you're doing incredibly well. So,
Hey, Ken, on the thing about losing the code, when I was a computer lab tutor way back 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I would tell people, that's okay. You're not a real computer user until you've lost some work. Just remember to save more frequently.
yep.
And
believe
backups,
me,
backups.
Yep.
I still do it if I get, like, when I'm editing editing videos and stuff, I will get too into the editing and I'll forget to save, and then all of a sudden something will happen and the computer will crash and I will lose like the last hour and a half of editing, and there's nothing fun about that.
And that's why you had no high score program today.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I literally got home from work a half an hour before the show started. So, yeah. So Zonks, it actually had. I think it could have been a really fun game, but it just ended up being quite frustrating. Probably. If they had made it a little bit easier by you being able to stop your ship somewhere on the screen rather than just constantly moving.
Or start a bit slower.
something. It just there was just something about it that was a little bit too frustrating right at the beginning. So,
by the way, Dr. Ted is putting up some tips and tricks in the chat here.
oh,
He said,
okay.
tips, first stage, pick one half of the screen to stay on. If you chase everything all over the screen, you will watch less. I think it means you'll hit less. Stage 2, dodge everything. Third stage, pro. Not sure what he means there, but
Stage Pro. I don't know. Yeah, probably still.
I
typing.
actually found that just score all your points on the first stage, avoid everything on the second stage, and just avoid everything on the third stage because it just gets too confusing trying to hit.
yeah,
the
and then
things
you
you're
wrap
supposed
back
to
to
and
stage
avoid-
1 so you can get points
Yeah.
again. Yeah,
Then
I
you can
agree.
get points again. So
I do remember, was it Buck or somebody had mentioned that the order and where they appear on the screen, that the shapes come down, is fixed. So if you have a really, really good memory and you want to memorize all that, you can actually kind of predict where stuff's going to be because it's
Oh.
not a random pattern.
I did not know that. So
Oh, he said, sorry, phone typing.
prioritize dodging when you can, but grab items when, or prioritize dodging, but grab items when you can. The game gets harder as you go. There are definitely more objects in later stages.
We'll take your word for it.
And apparently until you wrap it around 4 times, then it's not going to get any harder. But yeah, does anybody else have anything else to say about Zonks?
Well, if you're going to type it in because you're a masochist, there's a program that Rainbow published. They published a couple versions over the years, but the Vanna one was called Rainbow Check Plus.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, it's a little machine language program that kind of hides in basic memory. I think might even a cassette buffer or something, I can't remember. But basically, every so many lines, you see a little rainbow checkbox in the Rainbow magazine articles. Every so many lines you hit, I think it's the up arrow, and it'll give you a checksum of everything you typed in. And you basically in stages find out, had you done any typing mistakes, of how to type the whole thing in, and then go back, and you could kind of figure out, I've got to do some changes here, look for some errors, and then your next block might be fine, so you just continue on.
Yeah,
And that was a godsend for these types of programs.
Yeah, the actual listing of this program, the beginning does have like a line 120 checksum, line 400 checksum, line. It just has it listed at the beginning of the program what the checksums should be.
And pretty well all programs that Rainbow published over past just a couple lines had those.
And speaking of game playing, Bob seems to have created a 3D effect for playing Pac-Man. The ghosts are in front of him. The maze is behind him.
I can't see it. So.
It's down in the bottom corner here.
Oh, highlight him. I want to see this.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so he's chroma keying the blackout and just playing Pac-Man. Now, which version of Pac-Man
right
are
up
you
his
playing?
nose here? That's sorry, go ahead.
Which version of Pac-Man are you playing? Is that
that looks
Nick
like
Burns?
Nick's version from the
Nick's
fest a
version?
couple years ago.
Okay. Very good version.
The best.
I highly recommend it if to anybody that's new to the CoCo community. Ron,
CoCo 3, 5, 12K.
add the Donkey Kong transcode and the
Both of them.
Defender and
Joust
and
Robotron.
Robotron. All transcodes are, well, Nick's is not a transcode, but there is a transcode of Pac-Man, but I do like Nick's better because in the transcode of Pac-Man, it scrolls the screen, which gets a little distracting.
You guys forgot buzzard bait.
That's not technically a transcode.
I know.
No, it's an inferior version of Lancer is what it is.
Yeah, it's a poor ripoff of Lancer.
I know.
So they didn't forget.
I had to poke the bear. Sorry.
Okay, so anybody have any other tips or tricks for Zonks? If you're a masochist, you can go play it, but it's probably one I'm not going to pick up again unless I get good enough with programming that I can figure out how to maybe slow it down in the first couple stages.
My favorite part of Zonks is, honestly, it's not the gameplay, it's not the graphics, it's the sound effects and the music at the beginning, which even the article says like a heavy metal track. It's kind of is. It's pretty cool. I don't have any other tips and tricks, though.
Okay, well, me neither. So moving on from Zonks.
Oh, Dr. Ted says, yeah,
Oh,
Buck
Dr.
Owens had a video showing they were fixed, like the positions. So it is.
Oh, okay.
a
So
pattern you
Buck
can
Owens had a
memorize.
video, but he didn't post a score. Now, do we mean Dr. Ted put out a video under Buck Owens' name?
That's what I'm thinking.
They got their aliases mixed up.
Yeah. He almost accidentally posed it as Tasman, but
Okay, so moving on. The other game that we played this week was don't tell me. I know this. Jubilex.
yep. Greg Whitmire.
And yeah, that is quite a good game. As we were pointing out in the live show, there's a lot of stuff going on the screen, and there's things we've got to make actually a list of what things do because there's power-ups to pick up. Oddly enough, the power-ups are missile-shaped, so it's one of the many missiles coming at you. You actually want to have hit you is the power-ups. So
Plus the hearts.
and then there's hearts that recharge your shield a bit,
And
and
there's a letter S, which I don't. What does that do?
we've never figured that out. I don't think
Oh.
One
Somebody
of
was
them
thinking it
is-
might be a shield or something that would.
Yeah,
make you
but that's the one without the white circle around it. The one
Oh.
without the white circle around it changes the color of your ship, which I think is a shield. Maybe.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is one I got directly from the author when I contacted him about his Sundog game. What was it called? Warmonger or something? Yeah, Warmonger, which Sundog did sell, but they rejected selling Jubilex, and he sold it on his own through GSW Software for a couple months. And unfortunately, when he contacted me and sent me a copy of the disc, he did not have the manual anymore. So, and he hadn't played it so long, he didn't remember what power-ups were what.
It's very odd that Sundog turned that down because it's actually a pretty darn good game and a lot like it's actually, as we were saying on the show, it's a hidden gem of the CoCo 3 that not a lot of people know about.
Yeah, well, he couldn't afford to do the advertising, and it was late enough in the CoCo cycle. It came out in '89, I think, or something.
Yeah, but
there
it's still
just wasn't a big market for it.
I just wonder why Sundog turned it down. Like, I mean, what would they have lost selling it? Like,
We'll have to
I'm
ask
trying to remember,
Glenn
like
Dahlgren sometime. But
in the '89 and 1990 era, they didn't have a lot new stuff coming out. I don't think. Like Contras was delayed for a couple years. Sinistar was the last one Dave Dyes ever did, and that was the same year. So I don't think they had anything else really new that time period. So I think Glenn had already kind of seen the writing on the wall for the CoCo market and just was gonna sell it what he could until everything completely shut down.
yeah, well, anyways, we have it now, so we can play it. Now we just have to go through and figure out what everything does. I guess the one annoying thing about the game is you can't shoot anything that's on the ground.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff firing up at you, missiles coming at you from the ground that you can't do anything about other than avoid.
Okay, 60 has some comments here. I'll just read out the chat here. It says, in at least one game, I picked up the missile power-up a bit late in the level, and it started cycling a few seconds firing forward and a few seconds firing up and down. And something else that was just weird, but if you pick it up early in the level, it seems to pretty consistently give you the multi-wave fire without that odd cycling. So maybe it's timing related on the current level you're on? I don't know.
Maybe, or maybe it was just a blip in the game. Who knows?
But yeah, it's like at first glance, it looks like a scramble where you can't shoot the ground. But we didn't have too many CoCo side-scrolling shooters that actually had power-ups where you could get multiple bullets in a kind of a bullet hell style game. And I think that's pretty well besides maybe something like Crystal City, that's about the only other one I could think of that's along this line. Now, that one does look more visually impressive than Jubilex, but it doesn't have the power-ups. You're just shooting and trying to keep your shields maintained by picking up parachutes.
Yeah.
This was much more arcadey style, I guess, following the arcade traditions at that time period.
No, it's I'm enjoying it. I think it's a pretty good game. I'm not that great at it, but
yeah, I think 60 actually said something about where did he say was scroll up a bit here? But he was mentioning it was kind of yeah, Jubilex is actually kind of fun, which is pretty big praise from Karen. This is something one might have to disassemble and kind of figure out what everything does at some point.
yeah. Or I was actually planning when I get time to just record a video of me playing it and then go back through and watch when I hit that, what happens? When I get that, what happens? course, I can't make it very far in the game, so
You might have to get that multi-named AI to help you.
yeah, maybe I'm gonna change my name for this this bit and become better at the game. I think that's all it takes is just to change my name.
Well, 60 just added, he said, I actually revisited Crystal City after playing Jubilex, and I like Jubilex more. I think gameplay-wise, he's right. I have to agree, because I'm not bad at Crystal City, and it does have 6 worlds to go through, and it's got really good sound effects and really good graphics and stuff like that, but it's just a constant shooting and trying to catch parachutes without shooting them and dodging stuff. And this has that more subtle nuance of getting power-ups and shield increases and different firing patterns. And so it's a bit more, like I said before, more like what was popular in the arcade around this time period of 89.
Yeah. Well,
I like both.
Yeah, but this is definitely a good game that we get to play for another week, so.
Yep, 128K CoCo 3 required. Do we figure out if it only has one color set? It doesn't have both composite and RGB supported. Is it composite that gives you the red heart?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think you have to play this in composite to get the correct colors. You can still play it without, but
yeah, you can play it without. But when you're playing, if the hearts are red, then you're in the right color set. If they're gray, then you're not in the right color set.
Yeah. Now, most games at this time, you got to pick. Do you have an RGB monitor? Yes or no? Because the colors are different, unless you're in Australia or PAL land. So in this particular case, I think if I remember, I'd have to go see if I still have a copy of the email Greg sent me, but I believe he had said when he wrote it, he didn't have an RGB monitor, so he had no idea what colors were what, and that they were even different for that matter. So he just programmed it for composite. Sometime I'll have to go and patch that too. I should make an RGB version. That should be fairly easy.
Yeah. Come on, get to work, Curtis. You're just sitting around doing nothing.
Well, as Brian will attest to, there's another project that we're working on here that we might be presenting, say, at the January virtual fest thing that I have to finish first.
Always something else to do.
And besides, you kept saying you want to learn machine language. Here's your opportunity.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll just learn that in the next week.
Well, this part's pretty easy. You just have to find out where the table is for the 16 colors and then just change them.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
Nope, coffee's wearing off. Better take another swig.
All right. So, as I said, we're playing Jubilex for another week. So, how about we take a look at the live show from Thursday?
The Canadian show.
Yeah, the Canadian show. The Canadians definitely outnumbered the rest of the world in this one. So, as you can see, most people were playing Jubilex. We did find actually in Jubilex there's a very interesting thing. If you're using the VCC emulator, when you get to the end of the game and it goes into the entering your name into the high score, it crashes. Well, it doesn't really crash. It gives you that weird screen that's at the bottom there, the orange stripes. But then if you hit the fire button, it just starts a new game again. So
yeah, so something in the video mode switch emulation is not quite right, depending on how Jubilex does it. It works in XForth and it works in MAME, I believe. Of course, it works in real hardware. And you can see, looking at a couple of the live ones here, one's in composite, one's in RGB. So
yeah,
one's right colors and one's the wrong colors.
Which one's the right one?
The one in the top corner that was playing.
Right.
Yeah, if it's flashing the blue Jubilex, I think.
Yeah, so if it's got a kind of a blue, light blue, and dark blue for the score, that's the right color set. As the only thing that, I mean, it really makes a difference on are the hearts that come across are red. So.
And you can see the middle screen on the top right now is one of the power-ups who's firing in 2 diagonal lines instead of just straight ahead.
So as you can see, it's a game that has a lot going on the screen, and yeah, you really have to pay attention to.
Especially those missiles firing up, because they actually have a bit of velocity to them. Like a lot of the games, like Scramble, they would just fire a missile, just go up straight and a certain speed. And then here it launches slow and speeds up like a real missile would do.
Yep. It's like, whoosh.
Yeah. And your ship even kind of flips around and rotates a bit when you're going up and down, which is kind of a nice touch. Or maybe it's only if you have a certain power up, though. I'm noticing it's not always doing it.
Yeah, I don't. I think what you were watching is when I got that shield thing, and it kind of changes the color of your ship, so it flashes. Your ship flashes a bit.
Okay, because it looked like to me it was kind of like rotating the ship a little bit, kind of like Zaxxon on the arcade does. Maybe I'm just hallucinating.
I think you're hallucinating. I think it was just kind of flashing the color of the ship a bit.
My AI is not working.
Gave the illusion of
yeah, maybe
like that
could be.
Anyway, so if you want to join us playing in the live Game On Challenge, it happens Thursday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, and we all just hang out there. We play the game of the week or any other CoCo game that you want to play, and you know, it was a pretty poor showing for the rest of the world. I think us Canadians really shone on last Thursday. So come on, you guys, rest of the world, do a little bit better. More people.
Don't invite the AS to stomp our scores, Kim.
I had visitors.
Yeah, excuses.
Okay, you'll get away with it this week.
Hey.
Chris Duras is asking, he's got to give me X, which is always RGB mode. Can I get the correct color? Currently, no. Somebody's going to have to patch it. But you can still play it without. It's not like things are unseeable or anything.
You just got to remember that hearts are gray if it's in the wrong color mode.
They're still heart-shaped, so.
Yeah.
Like there's certain games where the palette's wrong. It's unplayable because it's such a mess of color. You can't see what you're doing. This is not one of those. It actually is pretty clear still.
But yeah, so 8 o'clock Eastern time in the Game On Challenge channel on Discord on Thursday.
Yep. And for those of you who want to play Jubilex, 128K CoCo 3 and a joystick is all you need.
Yep. And you don't even actually have to play a game. You can just come there and hang out with us and chat. Or you could just hang out with us on one of the streams and chat through the comments.
Come on, join Discord. Get an appearance credit.
Yes. We are grading you at the end of the year, by the way, by how many times you've appeared in the Game On Challenge.
Is there prizes?
Your participation trophy.
For those of you, we're going to shame every one of you that have not appeared enough times. I'm looking at everybody on Discord. We're going to have an entire show of shaming.
Wouldn't it be shorter to just mention the people that showed up?
Good point. Okay, maybe we'll do that. Rather than running through the couple hundred names of the people that didn't show up.
Talk about a backhanded dig.
All right, anyways, so yeah, Thursdays, 8 o'clock. I hope to see you there. So now we will look at what our next hastily chosen 2-week game is going to be.
If it's Neutron, I'm hanging up.
This one is a dead giveaway because it's got the title on the screen. So no real guessing involved here.
Ah, actually, it does have two names, though. It's called 3D Brickway if you have the original version that Britmonk sold directly by himself, or it got renamed to 3D Breakthrough if you got the Avalon Hill version that came out a few months later.
And what is it on the archive?
Oy, I don't remember off the top of my head which one it has. I know the manual that's on the archive, and I can't remember if it's on the Color Computer archive. It's on the Internet archive for sure, but the manual from Avalon Hill calls it 3D Breakthrough. And then it later got ported to the Commodore 64 too.
I'm just looking it up right now because, yeah. I mean, it's the only thing that has 3D. Well, I guess there's actually a couple of 3Ds. 3D Brickaway.
Brickaway. Yeah.
On the archive. It's the very first game listed at the top of the list under number. So, Anyways, for those of you that don't know, it's a 3D perspective breakout game. So you've got the ball going down towards and hitting the bricks and then coming back up, and you have to move your paddle around on the screen to hit it and send it back. So
Yep. There are a couple of Easter eggs in the game too. If you miss the ball with your paddle, it'll put the word oops on the ball. And it'll also, as the ball is getting close to where your paddle's going to hit it, because it's a 3D perspective, the ball's smaller when it's up against the brick walls and taking the bricks out. As it comes to you, it gets bigger, but it'll say, it is fun. And as soon as it says fun, that your paddle has to be surrounding the ball to hit it, to bounce it back. That's actually from the manual, from the Avalon Hill manual. So I didn't even know that was the purpose of it, but it actually is kind of handy because you get a couple of frames as it's getting bigger where it says it is fun, where you know within these next 3 sizes of the ball, I have to have my paddle there. Otherwise, I've missed the ball.
I'll throw one thing in there. If you do the search for the 3-day brickaway, there's a little text file that says manual, and it says go see the breakthrough manual.
Okay.
And so it's uploaded as both versions.
The actual game is under 3D breakaway, so.
But it's also under breakthrough.
It's well, it's not.
Make sure you spell it correctly.
I don't see it anywhere on the.
I have the page up. It's breakthrough with THRU.
Where, like, what? I don't see the game listed under breakthrough anywhere.
I have it up on the Color Computer Archive.
Oh, breakthrough Avalon Hill. There it is. Well, just download the one that says 3D breakaway because it's easier to know that that's the game you're.
But if you want the manual, you need to go to the breakthrough one.
No semantics. Who reads manuals? The only person that needs to know that is Mark B.
Well, you know what they say, right? When all else fails, read the manual.
Who says that?
You obviously haven't heard Mark B read the manual.
Yeah, we have a guide for that.
Yeah.
We need a separate mispronunciation guide too, though.
I don't need to read the manual. I've never read a manual in my life.
That explains your scores, Ken.
And it explains why so many things I have are broken.
Anyway, it is a fun game. It is not easy, especially if you hit, like, it does take English into consideration when they'll paddle. So if you hit the edge of the paddle, the angle that it'll start bouncing off the walls and the ceiling and the floor, it can get really, really harsh. So it's just bouncing all over the darn place. And for you to try to hit it, if you can hit it in the center, you can kind of level it out so it gets a bit more straight and you have more control over the ball. So that you definitely have to take into consideration the English when you're hitting it. And it's quite hard. It's quite frustrating, actually, a bit when you get near the end, when you only have a couple bricks left. Trying to aim it to get to hit a particular brick can take you like several minutes. And if you happen to screw up and you hit it at a weird angle, then you have to try to hit this massively bouncing ball all over the place.
No, just like real Breakout, the original Breakout.
Yeah. It's a good game, though. I mean, it was good enough. Like Brit Monk around mid-82 had published a couple of games. He did Gauntlet, which is a little 4K game. He did another one that we haven't been able to find. And then he did 3D Breakthrough as a high-res game. And Avalon Hill liked Gauntlet and 3D Breakthrough so much that they bought the exclusive rights to it. So he quit selling it on his own. And then they published it through there. Though he was allowed, there's an article or a letter, I should say, in Color Computer News where it mentioned that after he got contacted by Avalon Hill and agreed to the exclusive rights, he was given the opportunity for a month or two to sell autographed copies direct from himself while Avalon was getting the packaging and everything ready. And if anybody has any of those, that's probably a collector's item because there wasn't too many made, from what I understand, that actually have that. So I don't have one of those. I don't think even Brian Weasler has one of those. So
he will next week.
Yet.
Challenge accepted.
Now, actually, one of the things about this game too is that considering when it was made, the actual, like, that it's a 3D perspective game like that that's fairly fast paced is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. The CoCo had a lot of 3D for skiing and Dino Wars with scaling and hill perspective with hills instead of just a straight, night driver style. where you're moving poles around, but you actually had hills and stuff. So the CoCo, maybe it's because of the 609 does some of the math a bit easier, but it seemed to be something we kind of excelled at.
Definitely ahead of the curve on doing games like that.
I still say that Dungeons and Daggerath was like, it had to be one of the first, if not the first, 3D adventure game out there. Yeah.
Well, the first real time with sound effects that actually have distance, for sure. I mean, you had like wireframe stuff like a Calibeth out in, 79 or 78? But they were in basic and, pretty slow. And sound, what sound?
Yeah, it was. The CoCo did have a lot of firsts. And personally, I think part of that was the processor that was on it, because we did have access to multiple index registers, the 16-bit operations that were available to us at the time. It's just like an absolutely wonderful thing to have.
Yeah, the hardware multiply in particular was one I think was quite popular with people because we were the only 8-bit CPU that had that.
Yes.
Well, until the 8088, I guess, but. Hi, Dr. Ted in the chat here says, Varlock blew me away as a kid. That's another 3D wireframe one by Greg Zummel, which is kind of like 3D Archon. Which I don't think we played that one either, have we? I don't think so. I don't want to press you to look it up now, Ken, because I know you're tired.
I will write that down to look up later.
Yeah. You're familiar with Archon, though, I take it, from the the Commodore, the Amiga, and the other machines.
Yep. All right. Varlock. Okay, well, I don't really have anything else to say about this week's Game On stuff, so shall we move on to some news?
No. Okay, take another break.
I am ready for a nap, so bring on.
Yeah,
the
you can have a
news.
break so you can go pass out on the floor and we'll come back to an empty chair.
Your service was appreciated.
All right.
Hi, I'm John.
And I'm Aaron of the CoCo Show.
And you're watching or listening to the CoCoNation, the live and interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer and its cousins.
All hail the CoCoNation.
Future Vision Research is your source for FujiNet platforms, including the FujiNet for Tandy Color Computers. The FujiNet cartridge supports CoCo models 1, 2, and 3 and comes with HDB-DOS DriveWire 3. Load files from SD card or connect to Wi-Fi and load files over the internet or your local Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. Applications from the FujiNet team allow you to follow news from all over the world, catch up on Mastodon messages, and even track the International Space Station. For more information and to purchase your own FujiNet devices, visit fvresearch.com.
In a world where RGB produces black and white video, one cable can make a difference. Switcheroo. CoCo3ScartCable.com.
A little brush of joystick to really bring our CoCo experience to life. And now I'm thinking a flourish of blue to accent our CoCo scene. And this scriptset blue might be, but as I'm looking at it against the canvas, it wouldn't be the right blue for me. We don't make mistakes on this show. We just have happy accidents. Now let's go for baseball blue. A nice hue to accent from our CoCo, but not overpower the scene. Hi, I'm TJB Chris, the Bob Ross of the CoCoNation, and you're watching the CoCoNation live show. Now, isn't that fun?
When you want the latest in TRS-80, Tandy, Dragon, MC-10, and all of their hardware cousins, no matter what it takes, or where news breaks, from around the world to your nation. The CoCoNation News with L Curtis Boyle.
Okay, so first up, we're going to go through the upcoming events, and there's actually one that they just announced this week. TRS-80 Trash Talk podcast is doing their live show tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. I might be popping by on there to probably mention the Basic 09 manual updates and stuff like that, just to give a little bit of stuff. But this covers, of course, all the TRS-80s and Tandy computers. Usually has a pretty good wide representation from all over the world, just like we do. They have their resident Australian, just like we do. So it should be a lot of fun, but that's at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. You can see it live on YouTube, and the link's in the show notes. The show notes, of course, you can get on Discord in the news summaries under the CoCoNation section. And I look forward to seeing you guys there.
Do they have a David Ladd?
Not unless David himself shows up. I don't believe so.
There you go.
Next up, we have T-Pug is presenting the World of Commodore 2024. This is one that Franklin Harris is from Retro Rewind is very heavily involved with. And of course, it covers all the Commodore machines from the Amigas down to the PET, the VIC-20, the Commodore 64. Of interest to some CoCo people is that the Super PET, which was a university-sponsored upgrade for the PET that added a 6809 and actually had OS 9 Level 1 running on it, is one of the things that will be on display there. And that is something I want to see if we can make a 639 version of. That would be pretty cool, I think. So, all right, if you're in the Toronto area in Ontario, definitely maybe check that show out. Next up, I will let Mark talk about this one, but this is the virtual Tandy Retro Show, and Mark's actually in charge of it. So take it away, Mark.
Thank you. Hopefully I'm loud enough here. So it's coming up the last weekend of January, be the 25th of January, 2025. And this is your chance to present at something. You don't actually have to leave your home office or lair in order to participate. Basically, you'll Zoom, you'll contact me, and I'll be streaming it live through the CoCoNation network. So people will be able to watch it and watch it later. And you can present on whatever it's going to be. We're doing not just the color computer, but the MC10, of course, Dragon, and any other sort of Tandy we can come up with. And we could throw some Brazilian clones in there too, if it need be. So,
now,
anyway.
This is the one we're crossing over with regular tier cities and stuff too, right? Or
yeah.
Something else.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So, actually, the first person that responded is one of the people from the Trash Talkers, if I remember right. So, and then the only other person I have so far is Henry Strickland. So I'm hoping somebody else will show up, like some people on the color computer.
I'm pretty sure Brian and I are going to show up, and I know exactly what we'll be talking about. So, but I don't want to quite reveal that yet.
No problem. Lots of slots left. Get a hold of me when you're ready.
And Brian, let me know if there's a certain time that works best for you. Is Brian still on the call? I didn't even know. Yeah, he's muted at the moment, but hopefully you heard that. Next up after that is VCF SoCal. Okay, thanks. VCF SoCal, which is February 15th to 16th, and that's in Orange, California, Saturday and Sunday, which is President's Day weekend, so hopefully people can make a bit of a holiday out if they want to head out there. I know we're trying to get Wayne Campbell to that show because he's pretty close in the area. And it was a pretty successful show last year. There was multiple CoCo booths set up. There's some FujiNet demos on the CoCo and stuff, which I'm expecting there'll be further updates since Thomas Cherry Holmes has been really cranking out the updates on there. So be there or be square. Next up after that is VCF East, which is April 4th to the 6th at the same facilities last year, the InfoAge Science Museum in Wall, New Jersey. This is one that Sloopy and some others attend. This is one, Ron, if you wanted to attend one, I think that's not too far from you either. And it'd be a pretty cool place. And sometimes you can get some really good deals on hardware and stuff too. So on all kinds of machines, not just CoCos. Next after that is the CoCo's Big Show, the 33rd annual last Chicago CoCo Fest, which is actually a bit misnamed because we actually know we're pre-booked for another year. It's the, one less than the last. We guaranteed have another one already for next year in 2026. Penultimate. Yeah, the penultimate show.
Penultimate CoCo Fest.
Anyway, it's a good time no matter what we call it. So definitely try to make it out there if you can. It's only 166 days away, and it's a bit of a time shift or a day shift this year. We had some complaints from people that, people that had to fly back home, and depending on when flights could be available on Sunday, sometimes they would shut down first thing Sunday morning to get stuff back on, packed up and ready to go, so that basically some of the vendors are basically gone Sunday. So we've now shifted it. It's basically going to be from Friday and Saturday, with Sunday is more of a wrap up. That's when you have time to shut down, but you have more time to actually see the vendors, etc. And of course, that is on May 2nd to 3rd, 2025 at the Holiday Inn and Suites in Carroll Stream, which is Wheaton, Illinois.
And real quick, Curtis, one of the things that I did see come up in some of the forums was people were wondering, oh, am I still going to be able to be there? They're changing days. Like, no. We were doing it all day Saturday before. We're still doing it all day Saturday.
Yep. You just got more on Friday that you can actually do, and then you can still talk to some of the vendors and stuff on Sunday as they're cleaning up. So, but it gives people that have to fly out for work on the morning of Monday, some time, and allows them to visit with people more often. Anyway, the special hotel rates are available now. If you want to book your room, it's $122 a night, plus taxes, etc., for a 2 queen or a 1 king bed. So if you want a roommate, you can get the 2 queen option. You will need to use the group rate code of G30 to get this rate, and it is a fair bit more expensive otherwise, so definitely use that. The special rate currently will end on April 7th, so you'll have to book it before then. Bookings for the tables themselves, if you want to be a vendor or displayer, will be a little bit later. That's happening in January 1st. Anyway, it's a great show. It's the continuation of Rainbow Fest after Rainbow pulled out of sponsoring them. And it's been going ever since. So this basically has been a continuous show. Well, we had a virtual one, I guess, during COVID. So we'll even include that. But it's been going on since 1983 when the first Rainbow Fest happened.
And that virtual CoCo Fest is one of the best ones we ever had.
Yeah, it was one of our best attended shows for sure. And it was over 6 hours.
One of the longest ones, too.
Yep. Well, we tried to compress a 2-day show into 6 hours. So that kind of makes sense.
I think it worked well.
It did. It absolutely did. Next up after that is VCF Southwest. And this is the one June 20th to 22nd at the Davis and Gundy Alumni Center at the University of Texas at Dallas. And this is one I am planning attending, and I think Brian and I will try to carpool part of it and do some displays. I'll be doing some Nitrous 9 stuff, and I'm sure Brian's got a bazillion things he could pick from to choose. I have no idea what he's picking. But this is one that, of course, is in Tandy's backyard from where they were. So a lot of the Tandy alumni are there. So if you want to rub some shoulders and ask questions of some of the people that were actually involved in making the computers we know and love, definitely the show to go to, because some of them don't travel that much anymore. But this is a place where it's right in their backyard. And of course, we have other vendors and stuff too, like Brendan Donahue of CoCo VGA fame, of course, is from the local area, and he'll be there too. So definitely a show I'm looking forward to. Never been to it before. I believe, Mark Bosley, you went to it last year, and you quite liked it too, didn't you?
Yes.
Any particular highlight for you on that show from last time?
No, all of it.
That was a cop-out answer if I ever heard one.
The free table was great.
Oh, did you get stuff at the free table?
I did.
Anything CoCo related?
No.
Tier City Tandy related?
No, I don't think so. No, mostly it was a like an SX25 motherboard. That
386 type style?
Yes, that I've since refurbished.
Okay, cool. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to it. I know Boise is a fairly regular attendee at that one, at least lately. I don't know if he for sure it's going this year. Brendan, of course, we see him at CoCo Fest every year too, but it'd be nice to see him in his own backyard, so to speak. I definitely look forward to trying to meet some of the people from Tandy that will be attending, like Mark Siegel, et cetera, that I've never met in real life. So looking forward to that. And the last one I've got on the current list is Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which will be running from October 17th to 19th in 2025. They've still got the old 24 dates up here at the top banner, which has already happened, but they do have the announcement here of the new dates. And of course, this is a gaming expo, so obviously that's the focus. It covers retro home consoles as well as retro computers. I think they even have some of the handheld type of stuff too, like the electronic stuff. So that's a lot of fun. I know Tim and AJ have actually exhibited at this before. And they actually did a live show from it a couple of years ago. I don't know if they're planning on doing that this year or not. I do know they are planning to attend CoCo Fest this year, though, after not going last year because they were kind of spreading which shows they were going to. Otherwise, you'd have to like attend 10 a year or something like that, and that gets expensive. So looking forward to that. So that's the shows I've got for now. So now I'll switch over to, do you guys want regular news or game news first?
Game.
Game news.
We always do the game news first. Let's do it.
So I can sleep in the news.
Okay, let's share this screen here. Think it's the right one? Yeah. Okie dokie. So first up, this was actually a request from Jim Gerrie. So there's a game that was published in the Australian CoCo magazine as a type-in, originally programmed by Max Bettridge, called The Caves of Narzod. And this is a game that was hard-coded for cassette because it has some machine language subroutines to do 2-pixel scrolling in all 4 directions. And of course, if you plug it into a system, it crashes a lot. It basically overwrites itself because it's trying to move, what it thinks is graphics data, and it's actually your code or disk buffers or stuff like that. So he put out a request to see if anybody could fix it. Both Paul Fiscalia and I did fixes independently. We didn't know each other was already working on them. I think mine went in a little bit earlier than his, but basically they both work. So this has actually been converted. And the video I'm going to show you here is the original video that Jim had posted up, running it through cassette on an online emulator, but it is running on disk. But just to show you what the game looks like, it looks pretty interesting. I haven't played it enough to really do too much. But it's got some pretty neat effects using those scrolling routines, and then you're kind of flying a ship through, and you have to get to the center where the Narzod is, and then get your way back out type thing, and you've got all these spiders chasing you, and there's some doorways, some of which will hurt you if you try to go through them, some won't. You don't know what they are until you try to hit them. And you fly around in 4 different directions. Probably could fast forward the loading of the tape thing. I don't miss that at all.
No art loading it, huh?
Sorry?
There isn't any art as it's loading.
No, it's just a basic program. So unless you did, use Sugar Software's utility to add a banner or something, you wouldn't be able to do that too easily. That part's just a little get put animation. And I think he uses draw statements for some of the text, but then you'll see a little bit later here. Again, now he's using some of the machine language routines to do the scrolling. And he does it kind of like a typewriter with a character turn line feed type thing, like Mark always talks about when he's introducing the panel. Which I thought was kind of cool. And there's a little bits of sound in there too. I'll skip the instructions, just show a little bit of the gameplay, just so you can kind of know what it is. And I don't know if Jim's posted this yet. But we'll play it. There's another game by the same author, apparently in another Australian CoCo magazine, that the person that originally typed it in and then sent it to us to fix is working on right now. So there will be another game by the same author here. It's kind of hard to see in the small screen, but there's a spider following your ship. Your ship always stays in the center. Then you have to try to kind of steer around, and that's a kind of a collision thing. And then the maze walls and stuff, I think, are mostly randomly generated. And then you got a little radar in the lower right, the circle. And as you fly through into the interior where the Narzod is, you'll actually see a line going, showing how far into his fortress or whatever you want to call it is. But it's got little animations, like the little talking and stuff. It's very well done, very well presented. I quite liked it. But hopefully that'll be up fairly soon. Next up, we have Stu, who's a regular on the Trash Talk podcast that's on tonight. In fact, he might be on the show tonight himself. And he does live game reviews from everything from modern Windows games all the way back to like ancient stuff like, the PEP, the original Tier City Model 1. And he's got a physical CoCo. And one of the things he does on his channel is he only tries to play games that, A, he's got the original hardware for in most cases, and also that he's actually got the original software. So he's got the original cartridge or the original cassette or the original disc with the actual original instructions, which he shows. And in this case here, this is kind of a follow-up because he played the original Micro Chess by Peter Jennings, the original 1980 launch title from the CoCo. And it's not the smartest chess playing game, and he actually beat it fairly handedly, but he decided to play the sequel, which is Cyrus Chess. This one has a bit of interesting history because Intelligent Software that wrote this is actually from the UK, and this game actually came out on the Dragon a year before it came out on the CoCo, or maybe even 2 years, because it originally came out on the Dragon. It was pretty close to a launch title in 82, and I think on the CoCo it came out late 83, early 84, somewhere around there. I haven't quite nailed the date down yet, but the manual's unique too.
Decent art.
Yeah, the manual is unique to Tandy's as far as I remember. It's got animated pieces, so they actually slowly glide around as you're moving them. They kind of pop in from the bottom of the squares when you're starting a game. So it's quite well done. And I'll fast forward a little bit so you can see the gameplay.
Instead of moving the bishop just now, he could have taken a d4 then too.
And he's talking with the chat. He interacts with the chat too, so I actually interact with him a little bit with a bit of the history behind the game here.
Oh.
The chess pieces look a lot better, I think, than the original chess. It's slightly higher res. It's P-mode 3 instead of P-mode 1. But the original chess had to fit in a 4K RAM CoCo, so they kind of had to reduce the graphics a bit.
Should I move out my queen to defend it?
This is a good chess. I always wanted to play this, but I don't know how to play chess.
Yeah, I'm not. I know the rules of chess, but I suck at it. So it's
well, it's pretty good that you knew that because I didn't know that much. So that's impressive.
And of course, Chris Burke in 1991 ported this over to OS9 Level 2. And now this version here has got 3 different screens. You got the main gameplay screen you see here. There's a help screen that tells you what the keys are, and there's kind of a stat screen, which is a text screen with various bits and pieces of kind of explaining how you're doing, etc. Chris Burke, when he ported it to level 2 in 91, he actually converted it to run on a 640 by 192 4-color pixel screen and has everything combined. So all 3 screens of the original cart are in one screen on the OS9 version, which I quite like. It actually, it's easier to play, I think, and better presented. It's quite nice. Even that artwork you saw with that, I don't know, it was an ancient Roman or Greek or something. That's actually part of the game too. On the in the graphics on the CoCo 3 version. So a big kudos to Chris Burke for doing that port. It's quite nice. And it's included in the OU if you want to give it a shot. Next up, we have yet another YouTube short from Non-Maskable Interrupt on YouTube. And this is showing the Tandy cartridge of Greg Zumwalt's official Tetris game. Now, this is one of those fat binary cartridges. So if you have a CoCo 1 and 2, it'll play it with slightly reduced res, same colors though. That basically cuts off some of the sides. You're not seeing as much of the Russian city background. But basically, they play exactly the same. This is the CoCo 3 version here on RGB, so it actually has the extra graphics and stuff, and it's just basically a nice little quick gameplay of the original Tetris cart, and this is an official Tetris. And you hear him clicking the keys as he's moving his pieces around. But I think most of us have played Tetris in some form or another. But don't really need to play the whole thing, I don't think. Next up. So last week, pretty sure it was last week, Pere Serrat was announcing that he was going to be redoing all the AGD games that he has ported to the Super Sprite FM Plus board, which is an upgrade board for both the CoCo and the Dragon, which adds in much better graphics than a CoCo 1 and 2 and adds a sound chip. And it's basically the MSX hardware type of thing. And he had ported a lot of the AGD games, which is basically the Spectrum. It was basically a game compiler that you could buy and create your own arcade games in. And when he did the original ports, he supported the extra colors and he supported the sound. And he's also got regular CoCo ports and Dragon ports of the games as well. So you don't need that hardware to play the games. But he was a bit disappointed because the colors didn't quite work out right. So what he's been doing now is been going back through and redoing them all with palettes that most closely match the Spectrum originals. And basically he's been putting out so far 6 game packs. So last time he put out the first 6. And this week he put out 2 more 6 game packs. There's now 18 games with the fixed palettes. So in this particular case here, he's got Antiquity Jones, Apologia 13, Baldy ZX, Baby Monkey Alba, Bean Brothers, and Bola KSC. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But you can see here, like it's got that kind of spectrum-y look. Because basically every 8x8 pixels, you have a foreground color and background color you can pick. and then you just draw black and white pixels there, and whatever your color attributes you set in that little square is what you get, which is why you get the color clash, because if you're trying to do smooth scrolling, it kind of goes over the place. I haven't actually seen these running in video, so because the MSX hardware I don't think does it quite the same way, you probably could do it a bit smoother, but they look pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of color on the screen. Remember, this is a CoCo 1 or 2 or a Dragon 3264 you're watching here. This is not a CoCo 3. So you can see there's definitely a lot more color choice, and you actually get some pretty decent looking graphics. Same res, 256 by 192, as we're used to on the CoCo. And of course, it has the background music and sound effects too. But pretty good variety. Now, the AGD engine is basically designed to do platformers, so almost everything you'll see on that engine is a platformer. A few exceptions. There's a few others. Later versions of the engine actually added some stuff, and he has ported a few of those. In fact, I think one of them we actually used as one of our games here about a year or two ago. So if you want to download that one, if you have the Super Sprite FM Plus board, which you can get from Dragon Plus Electronics, which is John Whitworth's, I believe. You can order it, and it works on all those machines: CoCo 1, CoCo 2, Dragon 32, Dragon 64.
Also, Curtis, if you're somebody that's maybe not a Facebook user and you rely on the mailing list, he was having trouble. He was trying to send to the mailing list, and he noticed that after about 3 or 4 emails he sent that they weren't going through. So somebody's trying to help him get them fixed. If you're one that, looks for his stuff via the mailing list.
Yeah. I mean, if you want a place to find Pere's stuff in specific and you don't want to use Facebook for whatever reason, you can join the World of Dragon archive, which is free. And the forums is that he posts these, that's where these screenshots and stuff you're seeing here are from. So he always posts them there. And actually adds a direct download here. So you go near the top, you don't even have to get a link to another site to get them. You actually just download, here's the Dragon version new palettes, and here's the CoCo version new palettes. And you get that entire 6-pack. He's even got the directions on here, what keys do what. And then he did the same for pack number 3. So that one, and he's going alphabetically. He's got Bomb Buster, Bones, B Squared, and then a 3-pack of Cap and Rescue games. The original Cap and Rescue Reprisal, and Cap and Rescue The Escape. And once again, you can see the 16 color graphics here. Even some transparencies and stuff. There's the boxes game. But visually, these, if you compare them to the original Super Sprite FM Plus versions he did, and you compare them with the original Spectrum, ZX Spectrum graphics, this is definitely a lot closer to the Spectrum. So this is actually looks more like a proper exact port. Now, Brian, do you have a Super Sprite board yourself?
I think
I know there's some.
Yeah, yes, I do. I bought the kit. And I have assembled it. I'm having a small issue with it, so I just haven't gone back to revisit it though. But yes, it's on my to-do list to get it working and to download all of his packs.
Okay, because that's something I wouldn't mind showing off on the show. Because I don't think too many people have actually seen it in action, and actually maybe even at the fest or something, if one machine can have it. Just because I don't think we've ever shown it at a fest. I don't think anybody else has.
Yeah, I can certainly set that up as a display, on the table.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Maybe even in the Fort Worth one too. I don't know. Maybe they'll compete too much with Brendan's CoCo VJ if we can get it going again. All right, there's another 12 games you can get there, plus the original 6 he started with. He's said on the Dragon group on Facebook, I think he's got at least 6 packs he's planning, if not more. And he's planning on releasing 1 or 2 a week, until he's out and finished them all. So there's going to be dozens and dozens of games here to play if you have the Super Sprite FM Plus board. Next up, we've got Chronologically Gaming, which I should mention actually is having a special episode on Monday. He's actually going to have the original game author of Yar's Revenge, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and E.T. as a guest on the show, and they're actually using there's a special program he uses when he has guests where you can actually live play the game with him, kind of as a shared internet connection. And the author of those games will be playing the games live on the show and answering questions. So if you happen to be in the chat, his show is on at 9 p.m. Eastern every weekday for half an hour. And if you have any questions for the author of E.T. and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Yar's Revenge, feel free to pop in and ask. But this past week here, he covered one dragon game called Jerusalem Adventure. And it says Jerusalem Adventure 2. Now, Jerusalem Adventure is the name of the game. For Microdeal, that was the second adventure they published. That's why the 2's there. There was no Jerusalem Adventure 1. It was a completely different adventure that was adventure number 1. So this game actually originally was on the CoCo about a year earlier in 81, because right now he's doing November of 82. And it's not one we have a copy of the original CoCo version anymore. So basically, I mean, if you save it in ASCII, you can transfer it over to a CoCo and you can get it running that way. Now, he mentions during his review here that he originally took a look at the name of it. He figured this would be a Bible-themed game, right? But then you take a look at the artwork, which has got this guy missing an eye and with a sword and stuff, and it's decidedly not really like a friendly Bible-style game. It's more of a ruthless text adventure. Now, he was having some problems with it crashing in weird ways, so I'm not sure if it's a bad copy, because it does seem to have ML routines for like controlling the scrolling of the screen, so you can keep the description at the top. I'll just show a tiny little bit of it actually running here. Oh, here's the original artwork. The version you just saw there was a second release. This is the original Microdeal launch version in 1982, which was kind of a generic style that they used for all their earliest games. There's a little bit of explaining about it. Not quite politically correct these days, the description, but that's what the 80s was like. And you can see it's just standard text adventure game. It does give you your directions that you can go on the top at all times, which is nice. So it's kind of screen divided. It's not the very basic adventures like some of them were. And like I said, he had it crashing a few times, so that's kind of weird. But November of 82, there wasn't a lot of CoCo games that had specific release dates. We've got ones that came out in November. So what he does is he goes through all the ones that he has official launch dates first. And then he goes through all the ones that we don't know when in the month that came out. So there's a fair number of CoCo and Dragon games that will be appearing as he gets to the end of the ones that are actually have specific dates in November. So expect a slew of them. There's stuff like Planet Invasion by Spectral Associates and a few other classics on there too. So definitely be checking those out. And like I said, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube or Twitch, and half-hour show 5 days a week, covering all platforms, all consoles, all home computers, all electronic handhelds. He's covering the entire thing, and he's going in chronological order, hence the name of the channel. Next up, this was a kind of a cool one. So SJSL Tech, which is not a YouTube channel I've actually watched before, he got the Personal Computer Handbook. Now, I believe, if I remember correctly, in 60 and some of the others in Europe can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Personal Computing or Personal Computer was actually the name of a monthly magazine that covered a variety of platforms. And this was kind of their handbook of covering all the different platforms, also covering just what is a computer, how does it work. So it's actually a book that actually educates the reader on what a personal computer is, how does it work, how do logic gates work. Like, it gets pretty technically detailed. I was kind of surprised. And then it kind of gives you, like, here's all the various, micros available right now and what their pros and cons are. So it's actually a pretty extensive book, and this is published once a year roughly, or once every couple of years, and they might do some updates. But it has a fair bit of Dragon and related stuff on here. I can't remember where the... Here. But basically, if you go through the book itself, like here it's going through computer logic, like how do and or exclusive or tables work, and how does that affect the bits when you put two of them together. Even has some flow charting stuff for electronics.
On how they're created. It's pretty cool.
And then it goes into detail. Even shows some like zoom ups of chips, what they look like on the inside when you remove the stuff that covers up the internals.
I believe. Half-inch, which is interesting.
Goes into disks, floppy drives, even a little bit of hard drives and CDs. So it's probably mid to late 80s, I'm guessing, this particular edition. And then it goes into sections of like, what are you going to do in the computer? And there's a whole section on computer games.
We've got some computer games.
Then even gets into semi-language programming for several CPUs.
Producing not very interesting.
And then he kind of skips over stuff like word processing and spreadsheets. That's not very interesting.
Inputs to quickly type in words. That didn't catch on.
some hardware. It gets into the fact that there's even mention about artificial intelligence, which is kind of the craze nowadays. And then how to choose a computer, and then it kind of like what do you plan on doing with it? And there's certain computers that have certain strengths in some areas, and not so strong in others. Cost is definitely an issue.
At the time, Apple 1, Apple 2, 2E, 3.
There's a Lisa, which if you were rich, you might get one of those.
You got IBM computers.
Lisa was $10,000 back in the day.
Going to mention IBM compatible.
1980s dollars.
Yeah.
The Sinclairs with the horrible keyboard.
You could probably buy a car for it the same price now.
Commodore's
It's got an Australian accent.
The VIC 20, 64, obviously.
Yeah, there's the Commodore section. And it's handy, and you can see the MC10 and the CoCo 1 right there.
Color computer.
And it covers the Model 100 and the Model 312, 16s, etc. too. So it's a pretty decent one. Good review. It's actually a magazine I wouldn't mind actually like fully reading at some point just to see what they thought of all the various machines from this time period. So that's cool. Now I got one that I apparently have the wrong link to, so I'll have to grab that in between at some point. But there's one more game one to cover here. And that's sibling rivalry from the My Drunk Sibling pages. Of course, is Tim Linder and his sister AJ. And this is part 9 of trying to get AJ to win Dungeons of Daggerath. And if you caught last episode, you discovered a hugely bad typing mistake that AJ did, because she was actually doing really well on level 5. She killed probably 80-85% of the monsters already, was gathering her strength to go attack the wizard. And of course, anybody who's played Daggerath, it gets quite frenetic. You're really involved. Your heartbeat's going just like the one on the screen is. And she's using the patched version that William Astle did, where you can save to disk and load from disk. And you actually have to name the file you're doing. The original version, of course, the cartridge version, ran it off cassette. So she went in a flurry to go load the game, but she actually typed save when she had just rebooted the game. She was going to load her, I think it was N was the name of the file, where she was on level 5 and had all this. And she had been incrementing the letters at certain key points, but she was just trying to keep going. So she was reusing N over and over again. Well, last time she went to go hit ZL to load the game where she'd last left off before she died, and she actually typed ZS to save it on a raw boot of Daggerath where you're in level 1 with nothing. So she wiped out her entire clearing out of level 5, and she was so frustrated and mad they just stopped the show. Basically, at that point, she wasn't going to touch it again for a while. Well, she's had a week to calm down, had a few more drinks, and now she's ready to tackle it again. So she picked up where you're just entering level 5. And this time, because she was really paying attention to what she was typing, and also I think it was early in the day, so not too much drinking had happened yet. She actually defeated the wizard. She didn't defeat all the monsters. She just went after the wizard, slow and methodically, hit it 3 times with the ring, and then kept hitting with the Elven sword. She'd run forward, 2 hits in, run back, a technique that a lot of us used back in the day. And she won it. And then Tim decided to be a bit of a jerk, which is kind of his role in the show, and wouldn't tell her how to incant the final ring. So when you get the ring, it says Supreme Ring. And basically, if you've gone through the other rings, you'll notice you'll need a source. Like a Joule ring, Joule, is an energy ring. If you know what a Joule is, you can look that up. And same with the the Rhyme ring and the Vulcan ring, etc. Now, I remember back in the day when I was trying to solve this one, Supreme Ring, you needed a good thesaurus to figure out what the heck was the incantation name for it. I had at the time a standard, high school thesaurus, and it didn't help me at all. I actually went to the library and got a university level thesaurus, and that's the only way I figured it out. But the funny thing was that Tim, kind of, a bit of an ego going there, was just kind of leading her on, like, you're going to have to try to figure this out on your own. I'm not going to help, but it's pretty well impossible unless you have a thesaurus handy. And then he gave her what he thought he remembered the incantation to be, and it was completely wrong. And as soon as he said it out loud, I'm going, what are you talking about? That's not how you incant the final ring. So I won't actually tell you the exactly what happened at that point. You'll have to watch the video to find that out. But this is the final one. She does eventually win it. And I'll just play a little bit of a clip here. So this is on level 5. She's got a protective spider because the way Dagrath works, you can only have one character in the cell with you at a time. The spider is the absolute weakest monster at the level when you've got this much stamina and stuff built up. It can't even hurt you. It can sit there and hammer away at you and your heartbeat doesn't even skip. So what you do is you kind of like pause for a bit, kind of gather your bearings, then you run forward, hit the wizard twice really fast, and then run back into the spider's cell so the wizard can't attack you back. And you do it enough times, you will beat it. And that's what she did. So if you don't want a spoiler on how to win Dagrath, then don't watch it through to the end. But yeah, she's as she said, she'll never play it again because it was I mean, they did 9 episodes and most of them were 2 hours each. That puts you tells you how much time she put in, which I think any of us that have beaten the game, that's exactly what happened. In fact, it was a bit slower because we had to load and save off cassette. But she did accomplish it finally. So their next videos are not going to be about the CoCo because it's kind of outdrowned all the rest of the stuff they do, because they don't just do CoCo games, they do all kinds of games from the 8-bit era. But congratulations, AJ, for beating it. And bad Tim for leading her on about the final incantation, then finding out he was wrong. And he had to go look it up himself because he couldn't remember what it was. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing. Now I've got to find what the original link was because apparently I've cut and pasted the wrong one for the actual last game news story that I was going to do. Let's see if I can find it here. Actually, while I'm doing that, I was just going to ask for everybody in the panel here. I mean, I know some of you played Dagger. How many of you actually won the game on your own back in the day?
I did.
Or even recently?
I did.
And how long did it take you? Like it took AJ probably about a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, about the
not
same,
playing it
yeah.
constantly, but
Yeah, about the same.
yeah, I think it was about 3 or 4 months for me. It was not an easy game, but it definitely gave you a rush when you finally won it.
I never even got past the first level.
Yeah, the third level is the first big accomplishment because you first see the fake wizard. You think it's the real thing. Oh, I'm going to win it now. And when you finally do kill it off, it goes, enough of this fiddling around here. Prepare to meet thy doom. And then the wizard promptly steals absolutely everything that you had in your backpack, except for a torch if you got it lit and whatever's in your hands. That's what you start level 4 with, which was kind of a shock. Just waiting here. Okay. Because the last one here is actually a French channel. And it actually was pretty interesting. And it's a gaming magazine that he's going through. Let's find going through my old history here. So you can find the darn thing. Let's think. Let me verify it quickly first. I'll have to update the show notes too, because I have the wrong link in for that particular story. Pretty sure this is it. Wow, YouTube's being slow today. Are they like trying to broadcast a boxing match or something? For any of you who tried to catch the Netflix big fight yesterday and just got spinning dials. Yeah, this is the right one. Okay,
right.
Cool. Okay, I'll just top this one. Oh, YouTube is being slow today. Back to the beginning here. Promptly threw me ahead again. Back to the beginning. Okay, so basically, you can turn on the closed captioning. I'll translate the French to English, but this is basically a magazine called Tilt. And it was a gaming magazine that, like other gaming magazines at the time, the general ones, they covered home consoles, they covered home computers, and they covered some electronics. And this was kind of their guide for what's coming out in 85. So this would have been published near the end of 1984. So technically, this is the November-December issue. And so it covers a general review of 500 games on a variety of platforms with just basically a 2-page, the single line going all the way across with like star ratings on certain parts of gameplay, and then information like what system it came out, what the system requirements on that system was, basically description of the game, etc. All in French, of course. But they list 500 games for a variety of machines that were sold in France at the time. And then they have some general, ads and stuff, which we'll skip for now. But there's they cover machines like the Thomson MO, which is another 6809 based system, and there were several Thomsons that were available. It also covers the Vectrix a bit, another 6809 gaming console, and then Dragon 32. And then they list some of the CoCo Dragon games. And the nice thing is they actually gave you a single screenshot of each of the games, fairly small on the page, but it actually gave you a pretty good description of what they kind of looked like. So let's see if I can. Oops, that's not quite it. I don't want to chat. So just to show you what the magazine looks like, just kind of their super guide issue as they're talking about it here, the advertising Ghostbusters, for example. But it looks like a fairly decent magazine, which I've never seen the French version of before. And they do some of the stuff like news coming out, other platforms coming out, new games coming out, and of course they have the various advertisers. And then they get into, here's some stuff about new stuff that is coming out. And some new games that are coming out for a variety of platforms. And then they get into the 500 games that they're kind of very briefly reviewing for a variety of platforms. I don't know if Peter's watching. He probably understands some French. But this is basically how the setup for these are. So they'll list 20 per page, gives you the title, gives you the company that produced it, gives you what computer it is for, and sometimes the memory requirements if it's not the base model that's required, what type of a game it is, if it's a war game, an action game, etc. And then it has these star ratings on various aspects of the game, and then a bit of a description on them, kind of a mini review. And then it has these little photos here with numbers beside them, which match the number on the left. And it does this for 500 games. And there's, I'll just list off some of the ones here. They've got, for the Dragon, they've got games like Blockhead, Bridgemaster, Cyber's Chess, which we just showed on Stu's review, Cosmic Cruiser, which was the one we played on the Game On Challenge not too far long ago, Crash, Cubert, Cuthbert Goes Digging, Cuthbert in the Mines, Dragon Chess, El Bandito, Fruity Glaxons, Junior's Revenge, Kriegspiel, which is one we covered recently too, because the Retro Gaming Scribe, or the Wargaming Scribe, I should say, actually covered that one just recently. Leggett, Lunar Rover Patrol, Nurble Force. Now, they had a bit of a screw up here because between Nurble Force and Scramble, the Tom Mix version of Scramble, they had the wrong picture for each. So they had swapped them around.
Sorry to interrupt you, Kurt. We can't see your screen. We're only seeing your face with your dulcet tones.
Oh, I thought I'd shared it. My apologies here.
Oops.
I didn't realize I was sleeping.
Me too.
There we go. That's better.
Okay. So here's the screenshots I was telling you about. And here's the diagram. And each line is basically a mini review with some ratings for each of the games. But they had a couple of mistakes. Like I said, Scramble and Nurble Force, they swapped. And I think one of them they actually had upside down. I think it was for Blockhead. They had it upside down. They also had stuff like 3D Lunatic, 3D Side Attack, 3D Space Wars, a lot of the Dragon 3D games. Ugh, Whirlybird Run from Spectral. So some of these are familiar to CoCo users too. And this goes on for multiple pages, so he kind of goes through them all. I don't know how well these show up depending on what you're watching on. It was also kind of interesting too, because some of the other machines that were available, like the VZ200 and stuff, actually use a VDG. So some of the games you'll look at the screenshot and you go, oh, that's a CoCo game or a Dragon game. That's actually not, because there were some other machines that use the VDG chip. And you'll see a few of those scattered throughout here too. In fact, one that was interesting for me was the VZ200 version of Tennis. It looks identical to the CoCo version of Tennis by the image producers. And the VZ, if I remember, and Nick, I think that was a sale in Australia too. So if I remember correctly, that one did not have enough video RAM allocated, so you couldn't use the highest modes. It was kind of like the MC10. You had to use like P mode 1 or something.
I don't know much about those machines, but
because the Tennis game on the CoCo was meant to run on a 4K CoCo, so it was basically set up to run on P mode 1, like a 128 by 96 4-color. And the VZ, most of the time, it has kind of a, I'll call it dumbed down, but it's basically just not quite as high-res graphics compared to CoCo version. That one's identical. It actually looks like, if you looked at the screenshot, you wouldn't be able to tell it was a VZ200 version versus a CoCo. So I think that one actually translated directly, and I think it was an exact port of the CoCo original one. So that was kind of an interesting thing to see, because I'd never seen that one before.
Well, the VZ was Z80 based.
Yeah, with the 6847. These are kind of like ones that came in too late to be included in the original review. But yeah, it was actually pretty interesting kind of seeing this stuff here. And then they actually review the machines themselves a little bit later on. So they go through, like, here's the consoles. And you've got like ColecoVisions and Ataris and the televisions. And I can't remember what the European clone of the Odyssey 2 was called, but it had a different name from Magnavox. And then you get into the home computer ones a little. So they go through 40 different micros. So here's the Thomson M05. And if you see down here, it says microprocessor 6809. So this is one that Peter's talked about. We covered a video that he was actually running one of the Thomson emulators. But it's the same CPU we had. This one kind of looks like a ZX Spectrum. It's kind of got the chiclety style keys. Now, they did have better graphics in the CoCo 1 and 2, because it actually had 320 by 200 and also had 80 column by 25 lines. 16 colors. So that was actually a pretty decent little machine. I know they've showed this off at some of the Dragon meetups in the UK. Fast forward just a hair.
Les sons n'ont pas été oubliés, un petit peu quand même. De jeu, oui, ça va. Ils vont commencer à faire pas mal d'adaptations. Donc, c'est pour ça qu'ils ont sorti.
So on this one, you can see they're actually advertising the Alice, the original Alice, which is the MC10 clone. You can even see the 20K RAM expansion pack in the back. Of course, it looks like an MC10, except it's red. But then they had the first of the sequels, the Alice 90, which, while still being a 6803, it actually completely changed the actual graphics and text. It actually supported 3240 columns, 160 by 125 or 320 by 250 pixel resolution. And of course, there was a later one, after this publication of the Alice 32, actually switched everything around and was an entirely new machine, basically. And you can see that here's an MSX 64. So this is one of the earliest MSX machines, kind of the same color scheme as the Alice, kind of the red and the white keys and stuff, which I didn't realize that's what it was. And I think they actually have the CoCos mentioned and the Dragons in here as well, a little bit later on. There's some Ataris. Alphatronic, I've never even heard of that one before. Apple IIs. Canon V20. That's not one I was familiar with. Yeah, YouTube.
Yeah.
64. A DAI, never heard of that one. 8080 based. Dragon 32. So this one, he says it wasn't super popular in France, and I don't believe it was, but it was popular enough that if you go through the advertisers in this magazine, multiple ones of them are actually selling Dragon 32 games, or Dragon 64 for that matter. And the 500 game review has a dozen or so Dragon games actually included, and some pretty decent ones too. So anyways, it was kind of interesting to see the French perspective, and he kind of talks about his own memories. I think he was a C64 guy, But he does remember seeing some of these machines in schools. Like I think some of the Thompsons were fairly popular in schools at the time. And I think even the Alice was shooting for the school market as well. So he does remember those machines. But an interesting perspective. And like I said, because of the Google YouTube Translate, you can actually understand what he's saying just by reading all the closed captioning. So you can kind of get a full review of the magazine and the situation of the early 80s, what the computer industry was like in France, which I found pretty fascinating.
Oui.
And I think that's it for the game news. Thank God there's no Neutroid in it. And now, did you want me to go straight in the regular news, or did you want to break first, Mark?
He's asleep. Just go straight in.
Yeah, I'll go straight into it.
Huh?
That's the type of enthusiasm I love to hear.
Let's see.
Too late. We're on to the news. Okay.
All right, that's fine. I'll go lay back.
Okay. So Mark Overholzer did a great job kind of covering for me last week when I was out of town for the news. And I know he missed a few things in my notes, mainly because my notes are kind of scatterbrained, just like I am. So there's a few things I just kind of wanted to touch upon that either weren't discussed as I was hoping they would be, or were just, missed because I combined a couple stories into one section. And, I don't blame Mark for that because I should have warned him. And plus, I mean, I only sent him the list like that evening before, so he didn't really have time to go through it anyway. So
I only glanced through it and then I went through it a second time on the day of. So
yeah. So that's totally understandable. I mean, I just screwed up and had the wrong link myself here, and I actually looked them all up in the first place. So I want to cover a couple of things here just to kind of clarify or add some extra to it. So the first one, we were talking about the Randy Kiddig interview from Floppy Days with Steve Leniger and Don French, some of the creators of the Chair Stadium Model 1. I did want to mention, if you actually listen to this interview, there is a bit of CoCo history in here too from the two of them. And they actually go into it for a couple of minutes. I'm not going to play it. You'll have to go listen to the actual things. I want, Randy to get his views and stuff. But there is some CoCo stuff in here that they both specifically worked on. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that if you haven't listened to this already, thinking if you're just strictly a CoCo guy and you thought this was just about the Model 1, no, it's not. And actually goes into some of the later history later on, even after the CoCo. So definitely check that out. The next up is the future house, which there was some speculation. I did notice in the chat, some of the guys in the chat actually had picked up on the fact that this was not a CoCo, which I think, Mark, you figured out yourself a little later once you saw the keyboard. But there's a lot more to it than that. First of all, this came out a year before the CoCo was announced. This is a 1979 product using 6809 and VDG chips. But some of the details of the house actually are pretty fascinating. So this was meant to be a futuristic house with some computers set up to control everything. This actually was a network of 6809-based Motorola machines, not just a single one. There was different ones in different rooms that you'd be using for different things. In the kitchen, you'd be looking up recipes. So basically, this house was built in 1979, and it was meant to be a view of the future, basically. It had all these computers integrated together and networked together, so they actually talked to each other. And you could pick up stuff in different parts of the house this way. The actual system was called Tuke, spelled Tuke. It cost $30,000 at the time, had 10 interconnected Motorola CPUs that monitor and control all aspects of the house, including monitoring windows and doors if they're open or closed, adjusting the blinds, temperature controls, logging energy use, looking up recipes. Even had speech synthesis built in, so it actually would speak to you as you're going through this kind of stuff. And of course, there's some pictures of the house itself. This is in Arizona. I don't know if it's still around. Ron, do you know? Ron Deluxe, if you're...
And nowadays we have refrigerators that talk to the dishwasher, that talk to the
yeah.
laundry.
So this actually was predicting the future pretty accurately, to be honest. And all using 6809. So here's one, for example, showing one of them in the background there. Here's a picture of the screen actually where it's I am Tuke, I am the brain of the house. And it would speak this out to you using this voice synthesizer chip. And here's talk about the SIFT being 30 grand. He said, although Motorola engineers predicted the price of a comparable system will drop to only $5,000 within a few years. Of course, then we got the X10. So here's one in kind of an office area of the house. Here's the one in the kitchen. And like I said, they had 10 of these set up in various spots of the house. So there's a fair bit to this. Here it is, some of the thermostat controls. Here they're comparing it with HAL. I don't know if that's a plus or minus. The Tron stuff probably makes more sense. And it was actually featured on That's Incredible too, if you guys remember that TV show. With was it Fran Tarkenton and Kathy Lee Crosby hosting it, if I remember correctly, and one other guy, John Davidson,
Nathan Allen, maybe.
They all blur together. That's real incredible, people. You know, it's just...
Oh, security alert! One of the doors is ajar. So it's got its own home security system built into it too. Here's the Motorola Home Manager. Farewell, please come again. So yeah, it looked really interesting. Like it's very advanced for 1979, and it's all using parts that eventually became part of the CoCo. So that's what the CoCo could have been capable of doing if you had 30 grand to spend on, wiring all this stuff together and having it all talk to each other with sensors and everything else and speech synthesizer chips. So I thought it was a really, really cool idea. I don't think they ever really went past it. I don't think they ever sold this as a commercial system, even with price reductions later on. So that's too bad. It's kind of interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't quite caught there, Ron. Did you say you knew about this or you don't know about it?
No, I didn't know about it, but Ahwatukee isn't far from me.
Oh, is that the name of a town?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't realize that because they just kind of worded it as if the system itself's called that.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder if it's still around. That'd be kind of cool.
Does it say it's in Arizona? Or?
Yep. Yeah, I did say that.
Yeah. So not far.
Yeah. As it says at the beginning, it was envisioned as a shining house of dreams, an experimental living laboratory and testing ground, a magnificent prism of man's dreams where the ideas of tomorrow experienced today. In practice, it ended up being a $3 tourist attraction.
So on the logo up there says at the name there, is that the name of a town?
Ahwatukee, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it does say here, conceived as an attraction to generate interest in the relatively new Phoenix, Arizona suburb.
Right.
Approach the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation. So this is actually right in your area because you're in Phoenix, correct?
I'm north and east of Phoenix.
Okay, so Google Maps.
You'll have to go visit this, and if it's still around, I would love for you to maybe do a live show from there. That'd be awesome.
It would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Next up, I mentioned to Mark about the a Dragon News section, which there was a text interview with Derek Williams by Richard Harding, which Mark fully covered already, so I don't need to repeat anything on that. But there's a second part, which is a brief video. Now, this is from the 1984 Personal Computer World Show in Olympia, London. And I mean, he's got multiple other, we've covered some of these videos before, but the new one added here is actually covering this show, and it actually features a dragon with a graphics tablet called the Touchmaster, which I'm not familiar with. I don't know if it's comparable with the X-Pad that the CoCo had from Tandy.
I don't know whether the PCW show is really the greatest micro show on Earth, but it was certainly packed the day I was there.
Is there audio coming through? I just want to make sure I shared it properly. Yep. Okay, cool.
Now this is more my level. Yes. I like it. Colours and shapes, but great for kids.
Yeah, absolutely ideal for kids. What it actually is a touch-sensitive pad which interfaces into MMA.
There's a zoom up of the graphics tablet, so it's a nice, fairly large one. The dragon's behind it, just off the top of the screen here.
What's the name in the top left corner up there?
Sorry, what? Oh, Touchmaster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the name of the tablet. It actually looks a bit bigger than the X-Pad from what I remember. What do you think, Ron? You have one.
I think so, yeah. I don't know, maybe the same. Just the area is 8.5 by 11, right?
So, as you say, great for kids because from an early age,
close. I'm sure
they're not really that happy with a keyboard, and so you've got something.
So you can see that kind of the screen up here. They're not drawing anything right now, but they drew some circles and drew some shapes here, and there's the dragon in the background. And that's what it's hooked up to. Now, I don't know if any of our UK friends in the chat know anything about this particular device. But if you have any experience with it, throw in some mention on the chat there. It'd be interesting to hear what you guys know about this, or if you did know about it. But it's not too often we'd see a dragon or a CoCo getting mentioned on like national news. Like this is BBC Two, so this would have been widely seen. Just gonna bring up the chat here. Apparently I shut it down. I was mucking around with my windows here.
Probably made the same as the graphics tab, with interference.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's on a bit of an angle. That might have just been for show. Like, I don't know if it had a little stand in the back. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I didn't know they had their own graphics tablet.
Yeah, here's ours.
Okay, so this was a follow-up because this was one I'd hoped Nick had a chance last week to watch, because I did send him the link the night before. But because of time zone changes and the fact that he's living in the future, he didn't get a chance to. So this is the video that Buck Owens put up on Twitch, showing his Visual Basic. For those who are wondering what language this is written in, it's Visual Basic. And it's his editor for doing your own levels in the hero game that Nick ported, and we've been covering fairly extensively lately, and actually had on the Game On Challenge. So basically, the way it works here is that he has all the various building blocks of the various shapes. You've got solid walls, you've got the brick walls you can destroy, you've got the various monsters like the snake and the spider and everything else here, and all the various pieces, and you just drag them onto this, or you click and select them, I should say, and then you kind of fill in on the map where everything is going. Here's the person you're supposed to rescue, here's a bat. And then when you tell it to generate, it'll generate the data statements that are required for Nick's basic program to know how the map works. And you notice he has a second camera set up here, which actually has his graph paper designing how he wants his level to look. And basically the way he's got it set up here is he runs the Visual Basic program, you do the map editing, etc. You tell it to generate the data statements, and then you add the Visual Basic program, actually throw those into the disk image, into the basic program for Hero, or for the data program, or data file, I should say, for Hero itself, and then it actually fires up the emulator and lets you test the level automatically, which is kind of a nice way to do it. And I can't remember how far ahead that actually kicks in. Oh, here's cut and pasting the data statements. Pops into levels dat, which I think's your generic file for the levels, right, Nick? All your maps.
I think so, yes. It's a whole project back.
And then he's imported levels dat into the disk image to replace the original. So it's now got the new map data in it. Saves it out. Fires up the emulator automatically with a new disk image with the new levels on it. In this case, he's firing up VCC. And then now it's mounted. So he just goes and runs the program, and you get to see his new map level, and you get to play test it and see. As Nick was mentioning last week, I don't think he had any guardrails on combinations of monsters per level, because I think you're only allowed one of each type on a single screen.
Yeah, one creature.
One of each creature, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. There's 3 creatures, and you can only have one.
And of course, since it's Buck, he overcranks the speed like crazy. Anyway, so we did some play testing, and you can kind of see how it works. But it makes it pretty easy to design your own level. So if anybody wants to, take a shot at it, definitely do so. He's had a few that he does here. Now, I will tell you an Easter egg that I will not show. So if you go check this video of his on Twitch, we've never seen Buck Owens, but at one point, his secondary camera, he actually appears in it. So if you want to see what he actually looks like, go watch the entire hour video and see if you can catch it. That was really cool. I mean, one of the points of doing this in BASIC was, 1, to prove you could do semi-graphics in BASIC. 2, you could do an arcade game in BASIC. But 3, because a lot more people know BASIC than, say, assembly language, it definitely makes it modifiable. You can actually, create your own levels and stuff. And Buck, even the few little test levels he shows on this video, he's got some pretty interesting levels in there, I have to say. Definitely worthwhile checking out. And I wouldn't mind seeing people just kind of create their own, submit them. Maybe we'll make a Hero 2 with completely new levels that even the original Atari version didn't have, and see what people can come up with.
So the big question, is Buck really a robot when you see him?
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to go watch the video and find out. And I think if I remember, aren't Twitch videos, they're limited time only, aren't they? They disappear after a while.
Oh, I don't know.
So if you want to go see this, I think you'll have to do it fairly soon. Right now, it's 10 days ago that it was posted, but I think Twitch videos, I think unless you specially set them, I think they disappear after 30 or 45 or 60 days or something like that. Because I know I've gone back to look for Buck Owens videos that I know he had recorded and they're gone. So, and I think I've even seen some other people's that it just disappears after a while. Okay, the other one I wanted to follow up, this is the last one I want to do a follow-up from last week. So Mark covered the first two blog posts that Jim had done on his researching how the VDG external ROM sets work. And Jim kind of snuck in a third part right, I think the morning of the show or something silly like that. So Mark didn't know about it. I didn't either. So this is the third one. And this is where he actually goes into, deciphering the interface itself with schematics, et cetera, how the actual ROMs have to be set up, circuit diagrams and stuff. And this, of course, is based on the original lower kits by Dennis Bathory Kits at Green Mountain Micro. Those of you who don't know, Dennis Bathory Kits was a hardware and software guy for the Model 1 through the CoCo. He did tons of commercial software. His own company was called Green Mountain Micro. And he's also a guy in charge of the CoCo list. And he's also a rather famous music author for opera. That's his main love, actually. And he's actually just published recently a whole new opera that actually got performed in his home state. For those of you who've never seen it before, this is what the lower kit, the kind of official, I guess, or unofficial main one. It's a taller and font and a bit more bolder, and it has like serifs and stuff. And I quite liked it. I did remember seeing these back at Rainbow Fest in the mid 80s. And it actually was easier to read than the standard, Motorola fonts. And of course, they support true lowercase, et cetera, too. So anyway, good technical description of how all this stuff works. I won't go into too many details. He shows a few different alternative fonts here. And he's got the other two parts, of course, to read. Now, the other thing was, he was mentioning some of the things that I'd mentioned, too. So as he mentioned, he said having a way to load character sets directly from the CoCo while it's running would be the ideal goal for what he's researching it for. So back in the day, you had to actually have external ROM chips wired in. So basically, if you wanted to switch to a different font, you'd have to pop the ROM out, put a different one in. Probably want to shut the machine off while you're doing this. What Jim is kind of steering towards, I think, is doing this as a hot upload, where you can actually just transfer it to maybe a static RAM or a flash EEPROM or something like that from the CoCo while it's running. And, why stop at one? It's, memory is so cheap these days. Why not have it a chip that can hold multiple fonts, and you can just switch between them whenever the heck you want? And this is something the CoCo VGA by Brendan does, which is kind of a whole satellite board, but this would actually be using the actual VDG, or at least linked to the VDG. And you can also do other things too, like you can define graphics characters, and then you can actually make them smooth. Like right now, you'd have to do it like tile-based, right? But if you design the shapes properly, you could actually have, say, a spaceship shifted a pixel and going between two characters. So you could actually make it completely smooth moving going back and forth, for example. And if you did semi-graphics 24, where you have control over the vertical, you could even design shapes in such a way you can make it smooth vertical scrolling too. Maybe even switching between character sets as needed, depending on the game. Now, I did notice in the comments that were going on the screen while that was being discussed that you could do this kind of thing, that if you're doing that amount of bit shifting in fonts, I think a few people mentioned, Mark Siegel was one I remember, there's a few others too. At that point, you might as well just go to a P mode 4 screen and just do it with the actual graphics mode. And that is true. Especially if you're doing a multiple complex shapes, that would be easier. The advantage of doing this way, if you have something that only has a couple different shapes that you have to worry about doing all these pixel shifted characters, is that this screen is only 512 bytes. A P mode 4 screen is 6K. So you've got literally 16 times as much memory to move around. So if you're trying to do like a scrolling game or something like that, you could do it much, much faster doing this. You could probably even do it in BASIC. Whereas on P mode 4, you'd need some assembly language to get any sort of speed out of it. But this would allow you to do it fairly simply on even a BASIC program. So I think you definitely could do some stuff here. And it would also take a lot less memory too, because it's only taking half a K, not 6K. And if you want to do other fancy effects with the colors and stuff, you still have the colors set there. You're just redefining the text characters, the first 128 that show up. And lastly, they were talking about the he was talking about being able to trigger IRQ or FRQ based on the count of the scan lines, which is something the Atari 8-bits actually do. You can set up an interrupt saying, you know, on the 40 of the scan line, give me an interrupt, and on the 80 of the scan line, give me an interrupt, and you can like change colors or even modes for that matter. And you can definitely do that on the CoCo as well. But if he introduces it, this actually will conserve double duty. I mean, you can use it to change, say, the color set or which P mode you're in or which text mode you're in. So you can like mix the screen up with different colors, have all 8 colors on the screen at once. You could have sections, like you might have the top score stuff done in actual hardware text, so it doesn't take much memory. You don't have to have fonts for the numbers. You just use the VDGs. And then you switch to, say, 7 graphics 24 in the middle or P mode 4 or whatever you want. But if you enable it so that you could have multiple interrupts depending on the scan line, then you don't have to use that interrupt just for text and graphics. You could use that for sound. Now, have a trick that has been discovered relatively recently. Well, Robert Killick, I guess, discovered it way back in 1980, but we didn't know that time. But Simon Jonason and Nick Rennies have used this technique where you can overflow an H-sync interrupt, which happens 15,750 times per second, which on a 0.89 megahertz CoCo 1 or 2 doesn't leave you a heck of a lot of time to do anything processing the interrupt. So what we do is we overflow it. You make the sound routine last just a hair over an H-sync span. And then the rest of the second H-sync is left for your program to read joysticks, do graphics movement. And this is a technique that Nick has used to do background sound on some of his games like Jumpin' Joey, Pipes. And basically you get about 49% of your CPU time for the game and 51% of it for sound. And that lets you do digital samples, multi-voice, you know, all kinds of stuff. Well, if you have a programmable H-sync based timer that you can set up multiple interrupts, then you're not restricted to just using H-sync one every 15,050th of a second. You could set it to be every 3 scan lines. Well, now I'm only getting an interrupt once every 5,750th of a second. So you could actually use what Jim's proposing, not only do the graphics, but you could actually do sound routines that aren't as CPU intensive, which means you can actually have background music or sound effects while running a game at a much faster clip. You'd have 2/3 of your CPU time is for the game, 1/3 is for the sound, or 1/4 and 3/4, or whatever you wanted to do. But it would be under your control. So that if Jim does come up with this particular interrupt system, you can use it for graphics, you can use it for background sound, you can even combine the two, especially if he supports like multiple entries that you can put in, like, you know, interrupt every 4th line, every 6th line, etc. So there's a lot of potential that could be done on here for doing stuff at CoCo 1 and 2 speeds. And it would be almost a programmable timer, not quite as, you know, fine-tuned as the Gimme's is, but it'd give you a lot of the same functionality that the Gimme interrupt timer does, or the fast interrupt timer does for that matter, on a CoCo 1 or 2 or a Dragon. So there's some pretty cool stuff you could do with that. So that's one reason I'm very thrilled that he's actually looking into this. And if he actually produces something that has that kind of interrupt controls added in, it's not just for the VDG anymore. It can be used for sound. Next up, CoCo Town. So now he's returned after doing some stuff fiddling with MAME and fixing MAME problems on the debugger. Now he's returning to his Moon Patrol style game, and now he's adding video scoring. And now he's had a running counter up in the corner that kind of proves that the little font drawing utility works. Now, if you notice here at the bottom, I don't know how well you guys can see it here, but this video is only 10 minutes long because he almost had no mistakes this time. Like normally we get a lot of good laughs out of all of the errors he has and, you know, bugs that do weird things. And this one went pretty smoothly. And he's getting points now for shooting rocks, jumping over rocks, etc. So I'll just play a little bit of the intro, and I won't play the whole thing, obviously, but definitely check it out if you've been following him on his Moon Patrol game.
To Game Revolutions, the series where I work on a Moon Patrol clone game for my TRS-80 color computer. Soon to be a major motion picture starring Ryan Gosling as me. Today we're going to add scoring to our game, and we're going to use binary coded decimal. If you don't know what binary coded decimal is, check out this video that I just did on binary coded decimal. Let's go.
I don't know how many of you would pay for the movie with Ryan Gosling starring as CoCo Town.
Only if they manage to get Tom Cruise to play me.
Let's see, if there was somebody who's going to play me, who would it be?
Tom Hanks.
No, it's got to be much uglier than that.
You fail to realize just how talented Tom Hanks is.
He could pull it off.
We'll have Santa Claus starring as Rick Yulin, though.
Right?
Or ZZ Top, maybe.
That's easy. Yeah.
Anyways, it's a quicker video. Like I said, things went, unnaturally smooth. And he's got scoring working for jumping over objects and for shooting them. So it's actually turning into a game. I think that's one comment he made. Actually, is becoming a game now. You actually have, some goals to do and not just, running through graphics scrolling around. Next up, Retro and Gaming, who we covered not too long ago. He got his CoCo 1 working with an S-Video mod, and I should mention he lives in Europe, which gave him really good quality video. So this video here, I'd mentioned in one of the comments about the double speed up pokes. And he actually went and hunted down a book, 500 Pokes, Peaks, and Execs, which I think Spectrum Projects put out originally, and I think it was later sold by Microcom, who we both mentioned earlier in the show. And he does some benchmarks of some of the old 8-bit benchmark programs that every micro was compared against, which I'm not going to spoil where we place, etc. But he does go through kind of the details that the regular speed up poke 65495, 0 speeds up the ROM access only. So BASIC itself, Microsoft BASIC, will speed up all of its accesses to RAM for like drawing to the screen, dealing with variables. It all runs at regular speed, so you don't get like a double speed. You get about a 40%, 35%. It depends on the mix of your code and what your code's doing. But it does give you a very noticeable speed up, and a ton of the games in Rainbow and Hot Cocoa and stuff had that poke built right in. Even commercial ones did. Some of the very earliest CoCos and some of the earlier Dragons, it would not run properly without some hardware mods, but it was fairly easy to fix. And then he runs the full double speed. Now that's the one where it's running RAM and ROM much too fast. So the VDG talks to the RAM to display on the screen in between RAM reads and writes of the 6809. Well, now you've cut that extra time out of there. Now they're just arguing. So basically, the VDG can't refresh the screen properly. The SAM can't properly do dynamic RAM refresh. So if you let it run too long, like minutes or hours here, it'll eventually corrupt RAM and crash on you. Now, some games and some commercial music playing programs, I remember, actually would use the full double speed, but it would kick it down to regular speed for little bits in between just to let the dynamic RAM refresh catch up. And then it would kick it back on again so you can get really good results. So he does that too, and he actually compares, how much faster is that than the regular speed up poke. And of course, if you have a CoCo 3, that runs perfectly fine. It's designed to run at a full 1.78 megahertz. And there is the SAM doubler product, which I think Brendan does, that actually uses static RAM, which doesn't need dynamic refresh. So now you have enough time to do the video refresh and everything else, and still run at full throttle double speed. So you can actually get CoCo 3 speeds out of a CoCo 1, 2, or a Dragon. So I will play just a little bit of the where he's talking about the book he found the pokes in. And actually, there's 2 books he mentioned. I forgot about this one. Color Computer Secrets Revealed is also in there as well.
Computer Secrets Revealed. And here we can read what's actually happening. The SAM clock frequency is constant at 14.31 megahertz. The system then divides this by 16 for a resulting system frequency of 0.89 megahertz. The first poke command we will test will tell the system to not divide by 16, but to divide by 8. This will double the speed to an amazing 1.78 megahertz.
Wee bit of sarcasm there. Anyway, he does the benchmarks. He shows you the program that actually is doing the benchmark. It has stuff like square roots and some fairly, intensive stuff here to do a proper. And then he has a little bit of a chart where he shows where the CoCo and other machines placed. I remember that was published also, I think, in Creative Computing, or was it Byte? Color Computer News had one of those too, and they were comparing like different versions. Like the one problem with doing the benchmarks back in the day with BASIC is that several machines, including the CoCo, had multiple versions of BASIC. Like we had TSC BASIC, and we had BASIC 09, we had Microsoft BASIC, and depending on how they were coded, I mean, some of the basics are pretty drastically different in speeds on their own on the exact same machine, which made benchmarking kind of problematic, as to be fair. I mean, if I just took basic 9 benchmarks, we slaughtered just about every 8-bit machine out there. We were, beating the PC in some cases, even at 4.77 megahertz. But is that really fair? Because it's kind of an optimized integer basic plus floating point. And depending on how you set your variables, your 4next loops, if you used integers, it was a lot faster than setting up reals, which is all extended basic on the CoCo supported. So not the fairest thing, but I guess, it's somewhat fair, because if you gave the option to the programmer to have these extra options to make it faster, I would certainly use them. Hey, go check out his video. He's actually planning on doing some other software related stuff on the CoCo, since he's got his CoCo giving a really nice video output on the S video that he added to it on the previous episode. And he's going to be throwing off some software on the CoCo one as well, so keep an eye out for that.
Just as a note, back in the day, I used to go to Microcom and visit their place and bought a few programs.
Oh, that's right. They were by New York or something, weren't they?
Yeah, they were in Fairport, New York.
Okay.
Which is real close to Henrietta, where I used to live near Rochester. And I actually did sign work for him. Put Microcom up on the wall.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Building, yeah, for him. Yeah.
Because I met some of the guys that ran Microcom. I'm trying to remember their names. They were
Santwani or something like that.
Yeah, he's the guy who wrote that book that Brian was showing earlier, if I remember.
Yeah. Yep.
But I met them at Rainbow Fest. That's where I bought Word Power 3, 3.2, and 3.3 from them directly.
Yep. Nice people.
Yeah. This is the one I posted the wrong link originally, so we already covered this. I'll skip that. Okay, so has anybody heard from Erico yet? I maybe should probably check my Discord and see if he's. We were hoping he would be able to pop on the show from Retro SC, which is happening right now in Brazil. And he's actually showing off what you're seeing on the screen here right now at the show. Maybe he's got a little bit too busy. Yeah, I don't have any messages from him. So if he doesn't show up by the end of the show, well, we'll just catch on him next week and get some pictures and stuff to show. But anyway, he's been doing these low-res animations. This is based on the standard SG4, which is the reset graphics from Color Basic. And he's been making these animated figures with actually have little pop-up word balloons like comic books use, and he's using it to animate conversations between these characters. Now, I don't know much about the characters here. I think some of the other people in the CoCo community probably know these a lot better than I do. I think they're not totally original. I think they're based on certain things. But I'll just play. There's a few that he's posted little links to, so I'll show you some of the animations here. And I will mention that because this was the version that he's designed for the Retro SC show in Brazil, these are Portuguese. So if you don't know Portuguese, it probably won't make much sense. But I could see these as cutscenes in like a low-res graphical adventure game. They're actually quite cool. He's got little robots. He's got aliens. He's got, sort of human. Even got slightly different style of word balloons. But Eric always stuns me with what he can pull off with 9 colors, 64 by 32 semi-graphics.
Right.
I don't remember anything back in the day looking this good, though it was obviously capable of doing it. He's not doing anything weird. So, all right, and here's another one with another couple of characters. Now, this is before you actually put in some real text, it just kind of some placeholders. And then this is his 10 characters that he's currently got designed for that he's done the little animations for it, and sets up these little conversations between them. You can see some that we did not see earlier, like this big worm thing. I think he's actually got names for them all too, but I was hoping he would be on to actually explain some of this and what inspired it and where it's from. Next up, we've got Danielle. Hopefully I pronounce this right. Flaklar. just did a composite mod to his PAL CoCo 2. And of course, if you guys have a CoCo 2, you know the case has this little empty spot on the bottom on the right-hand side. And he's actually got the composite cables coming out there. So it's very neatly done. Like you're not seeing hacked apart stuff on the back of the CoCo where you have to cut pieces of the case off to fit these two cables coming out where only the RF cable was coming out before. And I guess technically you could probably even leave the RF can and then maybe make it switchable between the two outputs or simultaneous. But it looks really nice. And this kind of got borrowed by Tandy themselves when the CoCo 3 came out because the RGB cable's on the underside. And you kind of tuck that around and go out from the bottom so it doesn't, add a bunch of stuff on the back. Next up after that, in the Motorola 689, 609, 6800 assembly language programming group on Facebook, David Collins, who we've covered his stuff lately, he came up with a 609 based single board computer, and then he's published. We've covered it, several times as he's been going through. He's been doing some ROM work now for booting it, etc. But he mentions, I've entered my SPC into the yearly design contest at PCBWay. This weekend, I hope to do some flow charting for the basis to the DOS wedge that I would like to set up the default staged environment. I've most likely settled on a FAT16 file system image, which is definitely one of the easier ones to do. Since the LBA images have to be very specific layout to work with the software-defined disk controller, it makes sense to use FAT16. He introduced a few others like FAT8, FAT12, etc. And he's got a picture here of the project, which we have shown before, which comes with its own RAM, and but it's got a serial port built into it, and 609, some bootable ROM stuff. And then he's got the actual entry here on PCBWay.com itself. And of course, PCBWay sponsors a lot of the retro shows. Ken and a bunch of others have actually got them as sponsors as well. And this is the 7th contest electronic project. So he's actually entered in as one of the competitors. I'm kind of curious to see if he has the luck of winning. That'd be pretty cool to have a 609 project as a winner. Maybe get some more people interested in the 609, 609 and CoCo communities, even though this is technically not a CoCo. Next up, Jim Gerrie. This is one of his non-game related projects. So last week, I think we showed he did the Nova Scotia flag. And this time he added a couple more flags that are related to Nova Scotia. And he actually labels what they are as it's running. And it just runs continuous cycle. So I won't play the whole video because it just basically repeats. So here's a bit of Canadian trivia for you. There's the flags of Nova Scotia for the audio listeners who can't see this. That's the provincial flag there. So it's kind of cool. So basically, as he mentions in the notes in underneath the video here, the first one you saw, this one that's on the screen right now, is the provincial flag. The second one is the Acadian flag. And the third one is the Grand Council flag of the Micmac Lennu. It's basically the native Indian flag for the area. So kind of a bit of history on Nova Scotia there for those who don't know too much about it. That's a province out in the Maritimes and a place I have not been to yet, but will eventually get out there. And then Jim also posted this in the MC10 group on Facebook. So this is a request. He says, any budding 6803 assembly coder would want to try to convert the 6800 chess game. And it's supposed to be like Micro Chess, which is the one that the CoCo got, that Peter Jennings wrote, and it was one of the launch titles on the CoCo for the MC10. Because the 6803 is much closer to 6800 than it is 6809. And this was originally called Usurpator, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Usurpator? And he's got the link to the GitHub that you can get from the MC10 group on Facebook for the original code. And there was a point of made by David Galloway in the comments saying that there was a bug in the original 6800 version, and that version, the Usurpator actually had versions for several CPUs, including the 6800. So that was corrected in the 6502's version 2. So anybody who wants to convert this probably should take into consideration there's a bug fix you're going to have to do. And then he's asked a few people, and there's been some replies. I don't think anything has been done totally yet. But yeah, it would be nice to have an assembly language chess game. There's some basic ones, I think, on the MC10, but they're pretty slow, especially if you want it to play well. So this would be something where if you can do the conversion over. And it shouldn't be too hard because 603 is like a 16 with a few additions. It should be pretty easy to convert it over for somebody who knows what they're doing and has time. So anyway, if you're interested in doing and tackling that project, then get a hold of Jim Gerrie or go to the Facebook post and you can talk to him there in the comments. And now a couple of dragon stories to finish out the news. The first one, Richard Harding, the dragon archivist. Now, we mentioned, I think last week or within the last few weeks anyway, that he'd gotten some high quality scans of original Dragon Data software artwork. This was artwork commissioned by Dragon Data to use on some of their later manuals and packaging for their Dragon software. And he'd covered a couple, but he got a few more from the original artist. So he's actually made extremely high res scans. You'll notice the size of the files here, like 11 meg, 8 meg. I'm not going to zoom them up. We'll just show you the thumbnails. They're 600 dots per inch. If you print these out, these will look really nice if you have a color printer. So he tells you what they were for, because some of them have the titles on them, some of them don't. So this first one here, this is the astrology package that you could have bought from Dragon Data. Here's Cave Hunter, which looks really good. That's originally a Mark Data Products game. Our CoCo version never looked like this. Beyond the Simian Moon, which is from Nelson Computer Systems, later ColorQuest / Softlaw Corp. These are the people that created the VIP library and VIP writer, etc. But they also did games under the ColorQuest thing, and originally under Nelson Computer Systems, they did everything. So that was the second one in this Simian Moon series. There was the Adventure Trilogy first, and then Simian Moon, which is a machine language game, and then the sequel to that was called Fembot's Revenge. And there's the Dragon Selection one here. Dragon Selections were kind of tapes with multiple games on them, or multiple programs on them, I should say, not always games. But these were like basic, so you get like 6 basic games on one tape. And it kind of tries to paint little bits that cover each of the individual programs. Like there's a horse betting racing thing here, and noughts and crosses and that kind of stuff, Simon says. Dragon Selection 3. Now, this one was unreleased. The guy did do the painting to cover these games, but Dragon didn't actually choose it, or that Dragon Selection 3 wasn't actually released. I can't remember which. The actual software package was released. So that's artwork that was never used, and you get to see what it looked like. Dragon Selection 4 here, which had like Hangman, a music composer, Lucky Dip, etc. Dragon Selection 5, also an unreleased one, never seen before. El Diablero, which is actually a text adventure game, a very, very hard one by Ken Kalish, which is, of course, who is, of course, the author of Phantom Slayer, Starship Chameleon, Invader's Revenge, Dungeon Raid, and a bunch of other classic games for the CoCo and the Dragon. Final Countdown, which is a adventure game, if I remember, originally published in the States and then later sold by Dragon Data. Ghost Attack, which is kind of a reskinned version of Pack Attack. I like the fact that they have the ghosts floating around, and these are all stone walls. I didn't think that when I played it. Junior's Revenge, of course, which is a clone of Donkey Kong Jr. by Computerware, resold on the Dragon as well. Nerval Force, which is a Defender clone. Poseidon Adventure, based on the movie. Quest, which is an Aardvark classic. That one, actually, I played a fair bit when I was young. Pretty good basic game. Reverse Eye, which is, of course, an Othello style. And then Stalagino, which is a dual game pack that was originally published in the States by JR or something. Software company starts with a J. I can't remember which one on my head. But anyway, if you want the full color artwork, you can download the huge full color art file, scan at 600 DPI. And if you want to make a poster of them, some of these would actually make pretty decent posters. And the last one, and this one just got released this morning. So the YouTube channel Fix or No Fix, we covered his previous video where he was actually getting a Dragon 32 up and running again. In this case here, he's got to fix the cassette deck it came with. And then he doesn't have any Dragon joysticks, but he did have parts for a Dragon adapter. And there's a little board you can buy. But he basically puts together the entire board and then plugs in an Atari-style joystick. And he actually tests it with Mr. Dig, as you'll see here, which he loaded off the cassette player he fixed. So it's a 3/4-hour video. I'm not going to play any of it here. If you haven't caught part 1 where he's fixing the Dragon itself, you can check that out off his channel as well too. But pretty enjoyable video, and he actually gets it up and running and plays a little Mr. Dig at the end, which you can't go wrong doing that, right? Anyway, that is the news for this week.
Woohoo! So
So in the chat, Area 51 Aliens Exist is asking if the Dragon, how much of the Dragon games are going to play on the CoCo, or what modifications you need to make. How
It
compatible?
depends. There's several things to take into consideration. So if you're doing a basic game, the tokens for the basic keywords are completely different on the Dragon, even though the commands are the same. But if you save it in ASCII format and then load it in the CoCo in ASCII format, it should run fine. As far as machine language games, if they make calls to the ROM, like the official ROM calls for reading the keyboard, those will work. If it's a purely joystick game, the joysticks work identical. So those will work. If you have a keyboard game or a game that uses specific keys, if it does not use the ROM calls and talks to the PIA directly, the row columns are mapped differently on the Dragon, so that I think they're shifted one row. So your keys will be a little bit off from what the CoCo is expecting. So you can still play it, but you have to figure out what the keys actually are supposed to be. And sometimes they're in awkward positions because of that. If you're having a bit of a semi-language experience and working with the PIA for reading the codes, reading the keyboard directly, you can actually go patch those. I've done it on one or two myself.
So he's asking about Phantom Slayer specifically.
That's keyboard, and I'm pretty sure Ken Kalish is directly reading the keyboard, not using the ROM call, so that you'll have to figure out what the equivalent keys are. I think. I don't remember off the top of my head if that actually did use the ROM calls officially. The Polecat, I think, is the name of the...
One thing I'd like to add on that, all the Dragons have extended basic. So as long as your CoCo has extended basic, CoCo 1 and CoCo 2, save the code in ASCII format, reload it on the other system, and it'll all be tokenized, right?
Yeah. Also, the Dragons, except for the very earliest few that were sold, came with a minimum of 32K. So obviously, if you have a 16K CoCo, you may not be able to play some of the games that are too big. There were a few 16K Dragons released right at the beginning because they originally were planning on making a SKU for 16K. And then they kind of saw some of the competition that was coming out, like Commodore 64 stuff. They said, we got to up the game a bit here to make it more competitive. So they made 32K extended basic standard across the board. That's the lowest you can get. And of course, the Dragon 64 added the 64K version and actually enhanced basic that let you shift where basic was in memory and RAM. So you could actually get 40K basic programs, which on the CoCo, there was some third-party stuff that did that, but Tandy never supported that themselves. So we were restricted to 32K of RAM for basic programs. So on the Dragon, you can go up to 40. And of course, their disk basic was violently different than ours. That you will have compatibility problems. If it's a disk-based game, you pretty well have to rewrite the disk routines.
I like that. Violently different.
Okay, Tomac Gunson saying that no 16K Dragons were sold. I thought a few were, because I thought there was a few out in the wild, like really early on, like in August 82. But maybe I'm remembering wrong. Maybe it was just prototypes. I don't think they were sold widely. I don't think they were sold outside the UK. And of course, if you got the Dragon from Tano, the one that was sold in North America for NTSC machines, there never was a Dragon 32. It started on the Dragon 64. So it came with a 64K, a real keyboard, and a real parallel port too, and away you went.
Okay.
Real serial port also, 6551.
On the 64, yeah. The 32 had a real parallel port, but no real serial port or vice versa. I think that's right. I don't think 6551 was added on until after. And of course, the deluxe CoCo that would have came out in 84 itself had a real serial port as well.
Okay.
And Henry, I was going to ask, how did your swap meet go?
Oh, that one, it's not a swap meet per se. It's New England Classic Gaming. It's a very grassroots, just meeting up with people who are enjoying the classic gaming scene and bringing some folks in. And it went really well. I had a lot of people come by and ask about the FujiNet and ask about the fourth ROM that I had displaying. And I also learned that I always need to have a checklist because I forgot RCA cables.
Well, at least you're in the right place to probably find some to borrow.
I mean, unfortunately, there were so few people there that nobody had any.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
did you have to run out and buy some then, or what?
No, I just wound up using one monitor. Since I have since both machines had RF out, I was able to just go ahead and swap the monitor between the two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was. I had a good time over there. It's still a small group. We do have a Discord. I don't have the link handy, but if there's anybody in the group who's in the New England area, our next one is coming up in January.
Is it the same weekend as the virtual fest? I hope not.
I don't know. We haven't set that up yet. But
Try
if
to
it is
avoid
the
that
same-
date if you can.
Yeah, I'll let them know when that's happening so that we can see about avoiding that date. But
Cool.
in any case, we it runs bi-monthly normally, and it's only going to be like it runs from 11 to 2. So
And is it always the same structure, or is there certain gatherings that are a little bit different focus?
that's pretty much the same thing. Again, what you're looking at is this started with about 4 or 5 people who decided, hey, there's not much in the area, so let's find a place where we can get together and do this and do this. And I happened to run across them and just started going there with them. So, it's slow going because we all have real lives. But yeah, we just we meet up in the public library. Every so often there might be like a group, a gathering of like, hey folks, you all who are doing planning, do you want to get together for dinner or something like that? So it's, like I said, it's very small, but it's still one of those things where if you're in the New England area, if you're local to kind of central Massachusetts, eastern and the 495 corridor, it's easy to get to. We go to a public library there in Norfolk, I think it is, and yeah.
Now, is it fairly games oriented, judging by the title, or is it basically just retro and I just happen to be the name?
It's games oriented. It is games oriented, but it is retro also. Hang on a sec. Do I have pictures? I know I took pictures. Let me get something going over here, and I need to go to. I have pictures. So
Cool.
what I'm going to do then.
While you're getting that set up,
is-
I'll just mention I did correct that one bad link I had in the show notes. I've just replaced it on the Discord. So if you downloaded it near the beginning of the show, you might as well get the updated version because otherwise it's pointing to the wrong website for one of the stories.
Their screen. Okay. So there we go. And let me get the panel over to somewhere else where, never mind. That's not going to work. But this will work. Okay. So yeah, we've got we're in a library, and we had door prizes.
Oh wait,
That
we
was
gotta
one of the
let
items.
Mark zoom you up first.
Oh,
you
a bigger.
Okay. Am I embiggened yet?
Yeah,
there we go.
big.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes, I have been embiggened. So yeah, we had door prizes going on. It was absolutely a wonderful time there. The couple of door prizes that were given out, we had the complete Atari 2600 video computer system resources. Of course, there's Tim who's doing the door prizes. There was a wonderful stained glass artist there who does retro gaming themed stained glass items. Gave one away as a door prize, and one of the guys there, 8-bit widgets. He makes these little docking things that you can go ahead and put a couple of controllers in at the same time. So if you happen to have like a Robotron thing and you need you need to have both controllers, he goes and 3D prints those things out, along with some things to help with making sure that you're not always you can leave a cartridge inserted into the cartridge slot in a particular machine and not damage the slot in the machine by replacing it with an external different slot. And of course, he's got the Vectrex there. He was there with that last time too. As most of us know, the 6809 processor was used in the Vectrex. They had a free table this time, which was kind of cool. There were like 3 or 4 of the Nintendo light guns. I have no idea how I'm going to interface a light gun, but you know what? I grabbed one just to be fun with it.
Was that an
lots
Apple
of
memory
books.
card?
Yeah, I believe it is. That was up there. I didn't know anybody who needed it, so I didn't grab it. That was my little thing that I found on the free table. I have no idea what I'm going to do with it, but it was like, oh, it's got buttons, like I used to like when I was a kid.
Came out of an adding machine or calculator.
Calculator,
desktop.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that much I knew, but I was like, I'm gonna go. I just figured I'd grab it. Have fun.
Hey, keyboard's a keyboard.
Let's see. What's that?
Keyboard's a keyboard.
Keyboard's a keyboard, exactly.
Right.
So these are some of the exhibitors that we had there. We have, I can't remember his name, but he has the you can see that he's got the Apple II GS and he's got a few other systems going on. Let's see. This is the lady who's doing the stained glass. Absolutely wonderful stuff. Had a guy beside me who was showing off Atari stuff. And oops, that's Atari stuff. And I don't have a picture of my own table for whatever reason. But yeah, that's there we go. Let me get back to me. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, but that's about what we had there. It's a small space. We don't have that many exhibitors right now, but the nice thing with it being at a public library is people just kind of wander in, and they put us in the community room where there's also a photography gallery, so people come in wanting to look at the photographs, and here we are. And
we did that here too. We actually held one of our retro computer shows for the CoCo at the Mendel Art Gallery, which is the main art gallery in our city. So.
Yeah, it was kind of fun too because one of the people that I talked to at the library when I was trying to find RCA cables, she was like, "Oh yeah, my son's into this." I'm like, "How old's your son?" She's like 18. I'm like, "Oh, that's awesome." And so I tell her about the CoCoNation. I tell her also about Vintage Computer Festival coming up in April. That it's relatively easy to get to. She's like, "Oh, this is great." So I give her some web addresses and say, "Yeah, love to see your son there."
Yeah, and it's great to hear that young people are, we talked about it before, but getting more young people into the retro hobby definitely will help keep the hobby going.
Yeah, and my whole thing with it is like, my bias on it is, this is a computer system that you can learn how computers work very, very easily because you can hold the entire machine in your head.
Yeah, whereas modern machines, you have no hope.
Depends how big your head is, of course.
I got an update. The 500 Pokes, Peaks, and Execs, the guy that did that, his name is Kishore M. Santwani from Microcom in Rochester. Anyway, he wrote the supplement also. And I looked him up and I saw his picture and it looks like him to me. And he's a doctor of DO. Is that isn't he obstetrician maybe?
Or is no, I think DO is like another version of an MD.
Okay,
well, different training, osteopathy, I think.
It's in Chicago, but it looks like him. And I'm thinking maybe I'll get a hold of him and see if he wants to come on the show.
Yeah, you should, Ron, because you actually have a bit of history with like doing science forms. So like the rest of us would just be like, I was a customer, you wouldn't know me from Adam.
No, because you did mail. They did all kinds of mail order stuff. I don't know.
And Microcom in the mid to late 80s, along with Sundog and late Dicom stuff, was one of the biggest software houses for the CoCo. Right. They used to take out like 7-8 pages of ads in Rainbow.
Yeah, no, there was a Microcom that made modems. It's not them, I don't think, is it?
No, there was an earlier Microcom on the CoCo 2 in the early 80s that had nothing to do with the later one too.
Okay.
But Word Power is a thing I think they were the most famous for. They did a fair bit of CoCo 3 utilities, a lot of the books, like the 500 Pokes, Peaks, and Execs, 500 more Pokes, Peaks, and Execs, and a few others.
Those books came out in '86, probably just
they kind of replaced Spectrum Projects, like Bob Rosen's company when he moved down to California, and then he kind of disappeared not too long afterwards.
He had the Unraveled stuff.
No, Unraveled was Spectral. No. Okay, they resold them, I think, but the Spectral created those.
Okay. Well, I'm at the Ira Goldklang, or however you say his name.
Yep, that's the archivist for the Tier City black and white computers.
Yeah, they have all kinds of stuff on the CoCos and even William Barden's books there. They talk about it.
They might have permission from William because William's pretty strict about that. Yeah, but they actually are in contact with him because he did Model 1 and 3 books too.
Yeah, I just talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he's doing well. He's somewhere near us, back in the United States again, because he was I think he was either in China or Japan for a while, because he got married and moved over there. But anyways, I talked to him. He's doing fine. Don't know if he'll ever come on the show because I think he gets nervous about being, on the show. And well, if he ever watches this, don't be nervous. It's just us. We're nobody. So
we're pretty casual here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We ready to wrap this one up?
Yep. I'm getting hungry.
Yep.
Okay. Here's the outro.
This concludes another episode of the CoCoNation, the world's leading live interactive talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer. For all things the CoCoNation, visit us on the web at thecoconation.com. We'd love to hear from you. Send feedback, suggestions, even segments via email to show@thecoconation.com. The CoCo Nation Show would not exist without the community and its cast and crew. The CoCo Nation theme song, copyright 2022, D. Bruce Moore. Mixed, mastered, and produced by D. Bruce Moore. The CoCo Nation is over. Join us on the CoCo Discord server. CoCo forever.
Okay, just wanted to give you a quick update. We were hoping to have Erico Monteiro on the show from Retro SC in Brazil. He didn't message me directly, but he did post in the general on the CoCo Discord. He said, unfortunately, the mobile network here at Retro SC is not quite holding up this time around.
Oops.
He was going to see if he could use the event one reserved for sellers, but I apparently couldn't get onto that either. So that's why we haven't heard anything, because he doesn't have the bandwidth to really do it. So I just requested take some pictures, film some stuff there, and we'll cover it next week.
Yeah, stay away from Netflix. That's probably why.
Right?
Oh, that was a disaster.
Wasn't it? You can get a picture of the word of the numeral 25 in a circle going around.
Yeah,
That's
the
about
circle
it.
going around. That's what you streamed for. That was,
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, Ron, you managed to last the whole show.
Right?
And you're still awake, which is impressive.
And this is kind of the short one too, because we're not quite at 4 hours yet.
Well,
Interesting
let's
stuff
put up
there.
the rabbit hole sign.
So what did you think, Ron, of your first experience of being on the show? Hopefully
I
not your
think
last.
I need to get more of a background before I'm able to share, because obviously, like, I came in with the Tandy 1000 versus the color computer, but I'd say this is definitely a learning experience and an endeavor I'm wishing partake in.
Yeah.
That's what I think, honestly, because I think the support is there with you guys to learn it anyway, and I'm just going to give it a shot, go in and see what I can do.
Did you write down notes?
No.
Well, you do have the show.
Definitely
here.
install an emulator. That'll give you a good start. There's a ton of stuff you can do that. If you want to get in the hardware later, feel free.
I did. I put the I have the VCC running actually currently. So.
Oh, fine.
Cool.
Okay, cool.
Then head to Color Computer Archive. There's an actual zip of the entire archive as of a certain date a couple months ago, which has everything. So you can just do one download, and then you'll have thousands and thousands of disk images to fiddle with.
Okay.
If you're married, your wife won't see you again for a while.
Right.
I'm kind of used to that. This is kind of like the hideout in either way. She's not against that. So.
No.
Hey,
You have a future here.
All right. Let's see. Go over here to gallery. And all right. So I guess that should do it for today. See you guys next week. Bye.